Am I the a-hole for being late when I was previously with someone who was chronically late? Hi everybody. I would like some judgment on this because I've been getting some serious backlash from my friends, but personally don't really see the issue. Last week I was invited to brunch with some of my closer friends. We meet up quite regularly, so this wasn't anything special or uncommon. Now I'm going to be honest, I used to be someone who was chronically late to everything, like 20 or 30 minutes. I just couldn't seem to manage my life enough to be on time. However, I've seriously taken the time to change. Life planners, reminders, and overall more awareness of time and stuff have helped me a lot. In the past 2 or so years, I've never been late to anything if there wasn't a genuine reason, train getting delayed or something like that. Now all my precautions have failed me last week, and I found myself running late. Not terribly so, maybe 10 minutes behind schedule. I let the others know via text that I'll be late, and that they can start order their drinks already, and don't have to wait for me. I thought everything was dealt with, and I hurried up and got to the place, maybe 15 minutes late in total. I was already ready to apologise and sit down at the table, but as soon as I sat down, everyone got up and left me there. They told me that if they weren't worth my time, I wasn't worth theirs either, and they left the restaurant together. I later saw on Insta that they went out to eat together somewhere else. Now, I would have understood that if it was in my late era, but I thought that it was clear that I've changed and wasn't late just because I could. My friends are late sometimes too, so I don't see the reason on them being always on time. Usually when I read something like this and the people in the story are doing something that's unexplainably harsh, then I usually think there's probably a little bit more to the story than OP's letting on. Anyway, let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. As a reformed late person who is basically almost never late now, I'm obviously sympathetic from the get-go, but holy crap, your friends are such jerks. One thing I've noticed is that even though I've been good about being on time for literally like over 6 years, nobody notices. The narrative is always, oh, you know OP, she's always late, or wow, I can't believe you're on time. I have been on time for years, but it's hard to get narratives like that to go away because people simply don't notice. I don't know what to tell you. If this happened to me, I'd text them some version of your post and not speak to them again. This is some mean girls bullying crap, and I wouldn't put up with it. But that's me. This is a hard one, but I'm leaning towards not the a-hole. One occasion of being 15 minutes late after 2 years of making a concerted effort to be on time seems like it's well within the bounds of reason. I also don't understand why your friends waited until you got there to get up and walk out. It seems like they were trying to teach you a lesson. But that seems really petty if you truly aren't consistently late anymore. From the description, I would say not the a-hole, but how often do you have a genuine reason to be late? I can't imagine friends would be that ticked over something so small, unless there is something you're not telling us. Yeah, that comment hit the sentiment that I was feeling as well. Anyway, what do you guys think about this one? Let's jump to the update. Hello everyone. A few days ago, I posted about a situation where I was late to a brunch with friends. Someone sent me a message asking for an update, so I thought I'd post it publicly. Now, first of all, thank you so much for everyone's feedback. I was ultimately called not the a-hole, but I'm truly happy for every judgment, that you're the a-holes as well. Reading through all of the comments was basically impossible, however there were some prominent ones. Due to so many recommendations, I now have an appointment for an ADHD diagnosis, which I'm really happy about. I also used many comments as tips on how to get ahead of my schedule even more, just in case I'll ever run late again. Thanks so much for that. However, long story short, here is how the situation turned out in the end. Brunch with my friends usually starts at 11 AM. I arrived at 11:15 AM, so 15 minutes late. However, one of my friends had an appointment at 1 PM, which led to the brunch being pulled forward an hour, now starting at 10 AM. Now, here it gets a little confusing. Usually these things are simply posted on the group chat in advance, everyone reads it and all is good. Now the 10 AM brunch was planned at the brunch the week beforehand, which I didn't attend due to the appointment. Now I was meeting up with one of them a day later, and they were supposed to tell me about it. However, hanging out they simply forgot about it. No problem, happens to everyone, you know. So, I was arriving to the 10 AM brunch at 11:15 and called that a little behind schedule, which made them angry as it seemed really ignorant. That explains the huge reaction, to be honest. Now we all had a talk after a few days, and it took about 5 minutes of confused discussion until they realised that they didn't tell me. They started apologising profusely immediately. To sum it up, we're all good now. It was a misunderstanding and that happens. Next brunch is fully on them, lol. Thanks for everyone's judgment. Hope this update helps understanding the situation and isn't too confusing. It was just very confusing to write, to be honest. Alright guys, so there you go. It was just a misunderstanding. Yeah, I thought the reaction was a bit too extreme for the scenario. Either way, it all got sorted out in the end. Great. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Okay, our next story was posted on the Relationship Advice subreddit. It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "My boyfriend found out I'm rich and started using it against me." My boyfriend and I met through a dating app 8 months ago, and we've had a good, steady relationship. I come from a well-off family, but my parents never spoiled me. They taught me to not indulge in excess and to keep my privilege in mind when interacting with people. I'm currently living in an apartment with only my salary. I haven't told my boyfriend about my wealth. I wasn't actively hiding it, it just didn't come up. My birthday was a few weeks ago, and my parents threw a party at our home. Our home is a medium-sized villa. My boyfriend started scowling when I told him that was the home I grew up in. When I asked him about it, he told me it was nothing and started smiling again. His mood got worse as more and more of my parents' rich friends started coming in. When I asked him about it the next day, he just told me that he was feeling a little sick. After we got back, he asked me why I hid the fact I was rich. I told him that I wasn't hiding it, but he started bringing it up in every conversation after that, like telling me that I didn't know how to cook properly because I was spoilt. He brought it up with his friends, telling them I was a spoilt princess who had everything handed to me. It started as jokes, but it got more hostile as the days went on. When I brought this up, he told me I didn't know normal people problems because I was rich. Did I do something wrong? What should I do? What the hell? The boyfriend sounds like a prick here. Just malice fueled by jealousy, I guess. That's the only reason I can think of. Let's see what the comments think. 3 words. Only 8 months. He's 26 years old and acting like a teenage jerk. Don't waste your time on this guy. Heads up, if you decide to dump him, he might tell people because he was too poor for you. If you got any of these rude jokes on text, I would save them. Well, technically you're not rich, your parents are. Did he discuss his parents' income with you when you started dating? Drop the man-child though. He doesn't get to dismiss your feelings now due to his own assumptions. You didn't do anything wrong. You can't change where you came from. And if he didn't clock that you had a wealthy upbringing for 8 months, then he's either incredibly stupid or you clearly aren't a spoilt princess in the least. Honestly, I think there comes a point where you have to ask yourself if you could unsee this side of him. He's brought it up with his friends, insulted you to your face, and dismissed your objections. None of that is acceptable. And do you really want to continue being in a relationship with someone who constantly puts you down for something out of your control? That'll be £50. F that, you gotta end this. This is clearly something he's incredibly insecure about. It's only going to get worse. What happens later? He starts asking for money, or starts making you feel like crap about something you had no control about growing up. Wealth is success, and if someone is jealous of that, it's ridiculous. Yeah, hard to argue with those ones. Alright, let's look at the update. After I made the Reddit post, I tried to have a conversation with him, but he kept stonewalling me. He made more snide comments and I decided to break up. When I told him that I was leaving him, it felt like he was expecting it. He called me a rich bee and went on a rant about how I was leaving him because he was poor. Some commenters told me to expect this, but it still came as a shock. He and I have very good salaries, and I don't know why he said that. He was a good person most of the time I knew him. Some people asked me why I didn't warn him about my wealth. All my relationships before him were with people in my social class, so the expectation of wealth was implicit. Having wealth was not a big deal in any of my previous relationships, so I assumed it was the same in this one too. I'll warn my partners before taking them home in my future relationships. This is a tangent, but I wanted to talk about "I'm not rich, my parents are" thing that many comments suggested. A lot of my friends from wealthy families use that line as a defense, but it is misleading. If I wanted to, I could dip into my parents' finances. I choose not to, but it's still my wealth too. It might technically be my parents' money, but it still makes me wealthy. And having wealthy parents comes with a lot of privileges, even if I don't actively use their money. I never had to work a job when I was studying, I had access to the best schooling, I don't have student loans, and my parents' connections opened a lot of doors. Having a safety net let me find what I was good at, and let me take risks. So unless they're estranged from their families, children from wealthy families are also wealthy. I thank all the people who commented on my original post and gave me advice. I felt like I was doing something wrong, but you made me see that it was his insecurity and jealousy that was the issue. Alrighty, so there you go guys, that's the end of that one. Glad to see she got rid of that guy. I don't think people like that with that strong an insecurity will change. So yeah, good choice in dumping him. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Have you been in a similar situation perhaps? Alrighty, let's move on to the next one. Alrighty, so we're back on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. This one was written by user Froggy5 and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling a friend she'd settle for a penis and a pulse after she shamed my standards? Get ready guys, I think this one's going to be a doozy. I, female 20, have a close friend, female 22. She asked why I was still single. I haven't been dating since I was 18, after leaving a relationship of 5 years. Upon me telling her I wasn't interested in dating right now, she said, so basically you can't find anyone. I brushed past it, not wanting any arguments. She later asked what I'd look for in a guy. As I told her, and my basic standards would be, respect goes both ways, us versus the problem, not me versus you. Likes dogs, I have 3, so obvious reasons. General good hygiene, decent level of fitness, not necessarily aesthetic. I'm heavily into the gym and fitness, so I want someone to match this ideally. Driven and hardworking, i.e. has a goal or drive of what they want to do with their life. I told her exactly as written above, and she burst out laughing. I was a little confused and asked me what was up. She told me that I'm never going to find a guy because I'm asking far too much. If I were to lower my standards, I'd find a lovely guy. The only standard should be compatibility. If I did, I wouldn't be alone for the rest of my life because that's where I'm headed. I told her that without standards, we'd accept any sort of treatment, and I didn't think they were unreasonable. Later that evening, my brother messaged me with a screenshot from Tinder with my photos and my profile, asking whether it was me. As I assumed due to similar ages and location, we'd matched. I don't like the idea of dating apps at all, and my family know this. It was a whole lot of back and forth. Turns out the friend made a dating profile on my behalf to find a good guy for me. I was absolutely fuming and made it clear to her. She told me she was helping me out and knew what was good for me as a friend. Besides, if I post photos on Instagram, why is it different to Tinder? I told her that just because all she looks for is a penis and a pulse, it doesn't mean that I do. She's blocked me on all platforms and won't take the profile down. Update in comments the same day. Turns out Tinder isn't the only profile she's made. My brother and I are searching now so they can be reported, but we've found numerous dating profiles, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, all with the exact same description and photos. I'm slightly panicking now because I think it's gone way too far. How's the best way to go about it? Like this woman knows everything about me, family, home address, workplace, etc. Someone asks, what are you going to do? I'm staying over at my brother's tonight, bless him. He's got me and the 3 dogs in his one-man apartment. The accounts we've found have been reported, and she's not aware of where my brother lives, etc., so I shouldn't be in any immediate danger, just a little scared about it all. If it hasn't blown over by the morning, I think I'm going to call and see what they advise. And now for an update from the next day. Thank you so much for everyone's lovely responses. I'm so overwhelmed at the response. You guys are my lifeline at the moment. We later found several more accounts, current count at 22, all containing the same photos and description, the latest we know of, dating 5 weeks ago. The night I posted this, I stayed over at my brother's and my neighbours informed me 2 separate cars pulled up in the middle of the night, so she's been sharing my address since. Someone on here advised to get security cameras to monitor while I'm not at home, obviously, and in the space of 6 hours, 14 men showed up at my home. It's absolutely effing mental, especially as I've got no idea what she's telling these men. It has the possibility of getting very, very dangerous quickly. On the police and lawyer front, she's definitely against the law, but until we have direct evidence that she's sending the men to my address, i.e. message from her to one of the men, she can't be charged with harassment. Lawyers seem sure we'll win the case, though, on the basis of harassment, identity theft, and defamation possible, with up to 8 months jail time. Would I be the jerk if I pressed full charges against her? I think there's still that element of, what if she was trying to help? Though to be honest, I doubt it. Yeah, OP definitely wouldn't be the jerk if they pushed full charges against her. Like, obviously at this point it's gone way too far if she reckons that people are actually showing up at her door, Dozens of them by the sounds of it. Alrighty, OP gives another update in the comments. Wow, thank you so much for the amount of thoughtful, kind and informative responses from everyone. You guys have quite literally been my lifeline through this. I apologise for a late update. It's been an unbelievably hectic day. To start, cameras were installed in the late morning, before we spoke to the police or lawyer. I've just got to my brother's and have been checking through the footage. 14 separate cars. She sent 14 effing men to my address, for God knows what. I watched up until about 4 PM, and to be honest, I'd seen all I needed to see and gave up watching. Police and lawyer both had similar advice, so the general consensus was that it's definitely against the law, obviously with the sharing of address. However, the lawyer mentioned that there'd be a high chance of winning the case, as she doesn't really have a leg to stand on, with evidence provided. It would go under harassment, identity theft, and perhaps defamation. However, he said it's likely she'd be arrested in terms of harassment for up to 6 months. Though one thing he did mention was that the biggest evidence we could get towards harassment is screenshots of the messages of someone who actually turns up at the address in order to prove the harassment and her are related. So we've got a little group of us together, myself, my brother, 2 friends of him, and a friend of mine, and we're staying at my house for a few hours tonight to speak to anyone who shows up. We're hoping that they'll give us a hand and give us some info on exactly what's been happening from their side, along with any messages that have been shared. That's the plan anyway. A lovely hotel near where I live, the manager messaged my brother after seeing the post about what's been going on, allowing myself and the dogs to stay for the next week or so, tomorrow night, as they're fully booked tonight. So thankfully we've got somewhere to go for a little while. You guys have really helped keep my mind off what's been going on, and I'm so thankful for your concern and support. Thank you a million times over. And now for another update. Potential trigger warning for blood. So last night was nothing short of unsuccessful. For anyone who didn't see it, a group of us were waiting at the house with a note on the door, trying to gather evidence from the messages, etc. It's ended with a massively swollen jaw and cracked one of my back teeth in half. All good this morning, just pretty sore. Just to prevent this post getting too long and am I the a-hole rules, if you follow my account, I'll be posting further updates over there if you're interested. For everyone concerned, the doggies and myself are all good, just a little frightened about it all. But we've just got to keep our fingers crossed. We'll keep the thread updated. Details on the attack. I'm okay now. I was up at the hospital for a little while last night as I was worried it was something to do with my jaw, but thankfully they don't think so. And my teeth have taken most of the damage, so just a little knocked up. So the sign on the door said, "If you're here to see my name, you've been catfished by a woman using her photos and name to harass her. I'm currently collecting evidence against her, and I'd really appreciate if you have any messages from her you could show us. If you're not comfortable, please give my brother's number a call." Anyway, a car pulled up and left about 5 minutes later. No luck there. But after an hour or so, 10:30 maybe, a guy knocked at the door. I just assumed he was coming to help. I kind of thanked him and began to explain what was going on, but he grabbed the side of my shoulder and pushed me towards the corner of the porch. It's fairly small. He's still pinning me into the corner at this point, so I'm pushing off and screaming for the others in the house with me. He punched smack bang over the right side of my face. I'm so thankful it wasn't my nose, but blood was streaming out of my mouth from the tooth, so I ran over to the kitchen, whilst my brother and his mates were trying to sort it. The friend that was with me called the police. I don't really remember what happened afterwards. I think it was a bit of shock, but everyone else was unscathed, so I don't think he was there for too long. Safe to say we won't be doing that again. Holy moly, I did not expect that. Who the hell goes up to someone's front door and just punches someone in the face unprovoked? Anyway, let's go to the update. Alright, I'll start at the most significant, though it's a little tied. The psycho friend, can we call her Olivia for the purpose of making updates easier? Anyway, Olivia's sister, being in contact with my brother and later her family, informing them of the situation, rang me up this evening and said she got the number from my brother. There was a bit of awkward small talk, sorry this is happening, etc. But she mentioned a friend of Olivia's had visited Olivia after seeing the post from the sister, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, it's been a lot today. She said that the friend was really concerned about Olivia and seemed emotionally unstable, bursting out into tears, etc. She said she'd completely dyed her hair. She's normally blonde, dyed, to dark brown, had an effing tattoo done of a tulip, emotional significance to me, and was saying she desperately needed money for liposuction or fat removal and breast reduction, and was pleading with a friend that visited, saying it was urgent. Let's just have a think and see who that sounds an awful lot like. Dark hair? Check. Tattoo of a tulip on my calf? Check. Small boobs? Check. Skinny? Check. This woman is trying to freaking copy my entire life. So the sister of Olivia asked the friend where she was staying, obviously concerned for the welfare of her sister, and the friend won't say anything about it. The sister lives out of town and can't get a hold of her at all, and the sister won't tell me who the friend was that visited her. Helpful, right? On the positive note, the police are holding the guy in custody at the moment. They were able to pick up the reg from one of the neighbours' security cams, and I'd assume traced it to an address or something. Anyway, they rang earlier confirming details of my description, and it matches both the security footage and my description. They haven't told me any more than the guy's being held at the moment. On another positive-ish note, my brother finally gets a bit of space back. The hotel invited myself and the dogs to stay for the next week, tonight being our first night. I've made it very clear to the hotel that no info can be disclosed that I'm staying there, and they've agreed. She's read the fake profile messages on the dating site and hasn't responded. Thank you for all your concern, guys. Beyond appreciative. OP elaborates more in the comments. Fingers crossed, the attorney has advised that it'll be okay to keep a log on social media as long as it remains anon for the friend, myself, and anyone else involved. Police took down the friend's number that I have her under, but apparently weren't able to find any message exchange relating, and believe she's using a separate number. Just waiting to hear back from a few of the sites now, and hopefully we can find the number. Someone asks, can you guys make fake profiles to try and catch her in the act? OP responds, the issue we were having with doing that was that in majority of the sites where she's responsive, where it says she's active, etc., are companies that require a photo to sign up. Now, if it's any of my friends or brother, she's likely to catch on. However, if we were to use a random photo of someone else, I think we'd end up being legally implicated for identity fraud, especially since a lawyer is involved. After speaking to some of my friends outside of the country, most said that she'd sent them a friend request 2 or 3 months ago. It just seemed so weird and obsessive that it's something she's been planning for a while. Because really, why is she requesting family and friends of mine who live hundreds of miles away, and I've never even mentioned them to her? Thank you for your input. Okay, now for another update. We made a dating profile with one of my brother's mates who doesn't really know me, so chances are she won't have found him, so technically it's not exactly fake. I did ask her sister whether she'd had any history with that sort of thing, but she said it was so out of the blue and never showed any signs. Wonder whether she was trying to cover her own butt though. We've been sent over this chat log from one of the dating sites, and it's absolutely horrendous. However, she forwards them onto a separate number, multiple different ones too, to arrange to meet. The worst part though, things I've told her that have happened in my life, like for instance, my aunt being diagnosed with cancer, she's echoing the same things that have happened in my life off to these men. This thing has been going for far longer than my brother and I assumed. I spoke to my mum last night. She lives in Australia, so we don't see her very often. I was telling her about what was going on, and she said she spoke to her 4, maybe 5 months ago. The friend told my mum that she was arranging a photo wall for my 20th, and asked whether she had any childhood photos and any pictures she had of me to use. She also asked for my mum's address to mail any photos from the day to her. This obviously is absolute bullcrap, but I wonder whether she wanted the address to confirm I wouldn't go live with my mum. I don't know. My mum never mentioned anything, as it was meant to be a surprise apparently, and she'd forgotten all about it afterwards. Off to speak to the lawyer about it this afternoon. Keep fingers crossed for us. And now for the final update. Firstly, apologies for not updating. I wanted to make sure the info was correct so there'd be no speculation with what was going on. The friend has been arrested since last update. As suspected by many, she was encouraging CNC. Editor's note, I believe this is consensual non-consent, a kink. From the message with the guy that attacked me, she told him that she's cheating on her boyfriend, and he found that she was on dating sites. So she had to lie and say that it was a catfish, which might explain why the sign was ignored. Lawyer thinks she'll be taken in for psychological examinations. I'm not sure what's happening with the guy that attacked me, but I'm tentative to push for charges against him if he really did believe her lie about the catfish. But really, how stupid can you be? Still men turning up at the house, so I plan to move to the coast in the next couple of weeks. The sister ended up lying to the police, telling them that she'd never spoken to me, so I think she received a warning for false info to police. I think that's all. Oh, and thank you to everyone asking about my jaw. Swelling is down, just bruised. Lots of love and hugs to all. Jesus Christ, what a story. And that friend, or ex-friend I guess I could say, sounds like an absolute psychopath. Who does that? And by the sounds of it, it sounds like she was planning on it for like months in advance, ringing her mum up like half a year ago almost. That's just crazy. I've never heard of anything like that before. Have you guys? Let me know in the comments. Am I the a-hole for not celebrating my girlfriend's birthday? This happened a couple days ago and we are fighting about it, and I just want to know if I'm being unreasonable. So I've been dating Cora, my girlfriend, 25, for a couple of years now, and she just had her birthday. A week out, I asked her not to make any plans for her birthday, obviously stating that I had made evening plans for us. Dinner at this restaurant she's been talking about for ages, dessert, and then a drive to go stargazing. I had been hinting around it all week to Cora. I also asked if her friends wanted to celebrate with her. They told me at the time they had not figured anything out yet, so I assumed they weren't doing anything and then made my plans. The day of Cora's birthday comes, and she leaves in the afternoon. I thought no big deal, she was probably having some birthday time to herself. She hadn't posted on her story or anything, so I didn't think anything of it. 6 p.m. rolls around. I'd messaged her and called her, and still nothing. So I checked her location because she normally replies very quick. We have each other's for safety reasons, and she was at one of her friends' houses. So I asked her friend if she'd seen my girlfriend because I had a birthday surprise set up for her. Turns out that her friends did make plans for her birthday and didn't tell me because they thought I would ruin the surprise and wanted it to be a complete secret. They had lunch and then made more plans to go out to some bars and celebrate. They then invited me, but I declined out of politeness and not wanting to crash their plans, since she sees her friends rarely outside of work. I messaged Cora to have a good night with her friends, and I'll see her when I get home. I had a cake waiting for her, and thought nothing of it, and hung with a couple of my friends. Cora came home and was angry. I turned down her friend's invitation, and she wanted to see me with all of her friends on her birthday too. I said it wasn't a big deal and that I saw her in the morning and when she got home anyway. I also said that the invite felt like an afterthought, when she had all the time during the day to invite me and she didn't. Am I being the jerk here? Edit to add, she knew there were evening plans, just not the specifics of what we were doing, hence the hinting. Let's jump into the comments. Opie elaborates a bit. The restaurant I'd booked was a restaurant that's been on her list to try for ages, but she's never had the time to visit, and the stargazing is something she's always expressed she wanted to do, but she's never had friends, or dated anyone who cared for that kind of thing to want to do it with her. I 100% knew she would be really happy to do those things, especially on her birthday. Cora didn't tell me she wanted to do anything for her birthday, so I took some initiative. Had she told me she wanted a night at home, we could have done that. Or that she wanted to go out to bars, I would have been more than happy to do that as well, even including friends. Someone asks, does she like surprises? OP replies, she does. She likes throwing them and also being at the receiving end. She surprised me with concert tickets and organised a trip for my birthday when I let her know I had a free weekend a few weeks prior. Someone else asks, has this happened before, or is it a common occurrence? OP replies, honestly, this is a rare occasion. She has rescheduled things before for friends being in town unexpectedly, but she normally will tell me. I'm not sure why she didn't message or call me at least once between lunch and when I asked her girlfriend if she was alright. Hinting? By hinting, I mean at the specifics of the surprise. You'll definitely be excited. You've been waiting to do this for ages, etc. She knew there were plans, just not what they actually were. Honestly, this sounds like a pretty definitive not the a-hole to me. Anyway, let's look at some of the other opinions in the comments. Not the a-hole. Both Cora and her friends knew you had something planned that evening. Seems wild that the friends would plan something that bled into nighttime, or that Cora didn't mention at any point that you had told her to keep that night free. It's maybe crossed wires, but your invite was definitely an afterthought. I'm guessing purely at Cora's suggestion. Not the a-hole. She ghosted you on her birthday, then got ticked when you turned down a last-minute invite from one of her friends. If she really wanted you there, she would have responded to your attempts to contact her. Not the a-hole. You repeatedly let her know you had plans for her birthday. The entire day she couldn't send you one text regarding what her plans were and actually asked you herself to join in. It is bad enough she didn't let you know that you both might have to cancel the plans you had made for her, but she also gets mad at you for declining an offer that was definitely an afterthought. She sounds like a piece of work. Her friends deliberately didn't tell you about their plans and only invited you when you called in to check on your girlfriend, because she couldn't bother to pick up a call or answer a text. Yeah, hard to argue with that one, I reckon. Anyway, let's jump to the update. Cora is out buying groceries, so I thought now would be a good time to update those who wanted one. I couldn't figure out to make an update post on the subreddit, so I posted it here. This morning, Cora approached me about this first and apologised. She asked me what the plans would have been, so I let her know. She was rightly upset. I think my plans were way more thoughtful and memorable than lunch and a bar hop. I also brought up my annoyance that she missed out on these plans, which I really thought about, and that if she wanted to see her friends instead, she could have messaged me throughout the day and I would have been happy to rearrange our evening. She took most of the responsibility and was genuinely sorry that she left me in the dark all night. I say most of the responsibility because her friends painted a completely different birthday scenario to her. When I'd called Rachel asking if they were doing anything to celebrate with Cora, they were telling Cora that her birthday surprise was going to include them too before our exclusive romantic evening. I can't wait to meet so-and-so before your big plans, you're going to love it, etc., things like that. I never said anything of the kind to Rachel. However, her friends twisted it slowly throughout the week and made Cora think that. Because it was her birthday, Cora thought it was really sweet I'd do that to get to know them better, and when I no-showed at their lunch, she took that as a sign I didn't care to get to know them, when I made a lot of effort with her university friends. The only reason I don't know them as well is because they're not consistently in one place, and I've been working or had other plans when they've been together. They then went bar hopping, and Cora said that she did want to leave early to catch our plans. However, she overheard Rachel inviting me and my decline, but never the actual conversation. Rachel twisted that and said I didn't sound happy on the phone. Her friends bought her more shots. She overdid it and missed the time and our plans. When she finally checked her phone, the bars were busy and her phone was in her bag, so she missed my calls. My text read as passive-aggressive to her, which is why she was lashing out at me when I got home. She was upset because she thought I'd planned to be there with them and that I'd bailed. She doesn't really drink because she works a lot, so I understand her emotions were higher than normal, and she did take blame for everything that went wrong that night. She told me I don't have to meet those friends, and that she doesn't think she's going to keep in touch anymore, because she feels they overstepped by buying her so many drinks under the guise of being the birthday girl. I'm not going to reschedule like I was planning, because Cora wants to do something for me to apologise and make up for the time we missed. I'm excited and glad things are back to normal now. Thanks for the advice, everyone. Alrighty guys, so that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think. Honestly, pretty good ending, all things considered. It's great that the girlfriend, Cora, actually kind of fessed up and apologised for how she reacted. But yeah, pretty nasty of the friends to kind of spin that kind of false narrative. You know, it kind of painted OP in a very negative light in front of his girlfriend. That's really vindictive stuff and really nasty. So I'm glad that the girlfriend, Cora, has kind of moved on to try and cut them out of their lives. Either way, let me know what you reckon about that one in the comments, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, our next story was from the same subreddit. It's written by user Trilly19012, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for making my stepson sleep on the sleeper sofa in the living room? I, 33 male, have 3 children, 18 male, 15 female, and 10 male, from a previous relationship. My first wife died 8 years ago. My now wife, 34 female, has 3 children, 14 female, 13 male and 11 male, from her previous marriage. We started dating 7 years ago and married 5 years ago. We are currently on vacation because my oldest has spring break from his freshman year of college. We are staying in our vacation home a few states away. Our vacation home only has 3 bedrooms, one for my wife and I, one for the boys and one for the girls. The issue is there has been conflict between my 2 stepsons, Brecken, 13, and Kurt, 11. Brecken and Kurt have never gotten along according to my wife, but it's gotten real bad lately, and they're in family therapy for it. Brecken is a good kid, very sweet. He's definitely the most likely to challenge authority, but not always in a bad way. Kurt is more quiet and obedient, but he's had some issues with being nice to others. The conflict started when my oldest was talking to Kurt and showing him his phone. Kurt's interests overlap a lot more with my son than Brecken, so they wanted to bond over vacation. The issue came when Kurt was showing my son some texts he sent his friends. This included some truly vile stuff, including racism against Brecken's girlfriend and mocking some of his baseball teammates. Brecken's girlfriend is black. The district we are in is over 90% white. Our family is white. The texts Kurt sent included the N-word and were just awful. They also made fun of gay people. It was really bad. Kurt fully knows better than this. He has a high IQ, into some advanced topics like coding and trivia, and has even been considered to be a possible grade skipper. He's in 5th now, but we haven't because we didn't want to stunt his social growth. When we got out of the van, My son said he wanted to talk to me and showed my wife and I the text. We called Kurt in, and he didn't show any remorse. He made a big deal out of us calling him in, which led to us having to explain everything to all of the kids. Brecken, who almost always smiles, was angrier than I've ever seen before. Brecken told us he didn't want to be near Kurt, and locked him out of the room the boys were supposed to stay in. My wife and I agreed that it was best that the two don't stay in the room together. The couch in the living room is a sleeper sofa, so we told Kurt he needed to sleep there to prevent fights. We thought this was okay. Obviously Kurt was mad at us, but we were surprised when the girls started saying we were being too hard on Kurt, and that we should just let him apologise to Brecken. Brecken said he wouldn't accept an apology because, quote, "You can hurt me, but you can't hurt my girl or my boys," end quote. We also thought forcing an apology was bad, but the girls kept guilt-tripping us. He slept on the sofa last night and was a real pain about it. Am I the a-hole? What the hell? I would have thought there'd be some proper discipline happening here instead of this kind of problem with the sleeping arrangement, right? If what Kurt said was as bad as Opie's making it out to be, then where's the repercussion? Where's his punishment? Anyway, let's see what the comments have to say. Kurt's social growth is already stunted if he thinks racist comments are okay. He needs to be educated and fast. The fact you didn't address this as a family and make it clear racism is not tolerated bothers me. The sisters were defending his actions, and not the brother who was offended by the racism. Doesn't that register? Not the a-hole for making him sleep on the sofa, but you failed your kids overall. Not the a-hole. You might not have gone far enough. Somehow you and your wife have raised an unrepentant racist and homophobe. You need to do more to deal with it than a few nights on a sofa bed. Parenting is hard. Tell your girls that you appreciate their input, but this is a very serious matter, and as the parents, this is your call. Not the a-hole. Sleeping on a sofa couch isn't even the beginning of the conversations you need to have with Kurt. And let's face it, your daughters as well, since they don't seem to understand why you're being hard on him for using racist language and bullying others. OP, I'll try to say this as gently as possible, but it sounds like your kids are sheltered. You all are more concerned about where Kurt slept on vacation, opposed to the ramifications of his racism and bullying. I can't even imagine how Brecken's girlfriend would feel coming over to your house now, with the understanding that literally none of your kids cared that she was called a racial slur behind her back. They all need a wake-up call. This is not okay. Couldn't agree more. Let's go to the update. After listening to comments and talking to my wife's parents about what went down, we had my wife's parents pick up Kurt. We talked to the girls about why they felt they should defend Kurt and explained to them how much his comments hurt Brecken. They didn't have much of a reaction to the talk we had, so we're still trying to figure out how they feel. Kurt has only been with my wife's parents for a bit, and we're already hearing he's being very defiant, but we're not letting him back. Like I mentioned, this vacation is during my oldest spring break, so we're currently spending time with him. Brecken was very happy when we told him that Kurt would be picked up, though he's still very mad at Kurt, and has said stuff like, "He's not my brother anymore," which is definitely something we're going to bring up to therapists. As for the comments mentioning finding anti-racism respected, my sister is an English teacher, so we're going to try to find some stuff she thinks it's appropriate for 5th graders in terms of reading levels and what Kurt could comprehend. We've also been speaking to the parents of the other boys he was texting, and they're all horrified this was going on, and said they plan to address it with their sons. We also made sure that Brecken knew that we would always support him and his girlfriend, and him and his baseball teammates. Alrighty, that's the end of that one, guys. Let me know what you think. To be honest, I reckon they were probably too lenient on Kurt in the beginning there. They could have been a bit more harsh with his punishments and stuff like that initially. It's good that they're working through it with therapy though. That might help. Okay, our next story was written by user A Total Munch, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my girlfriend to nice places because she eats like a kid?" My girlfriend is an incredibly picky eater. Like I said in my title, she eats like she is 10 years old. In fact, I'll give a short list of things she refuses to eat. Unflavoured water, fish, excluding fried shrimp, anything with bones, cheese other than sharp cheddar, spinach, onions, garlic, pasta without red sauce, eggs, spicy food, aioli, ketchup, potatoes other than French fries, pastries with fruit, citrus, sausage, or any non-American food. This compares to me, someone who grew up in multiple different regions of the US and lived in abroad for a few years, so I'm a bit more adventurous when it comes to food. Whenever me and my girlfriend go out somewhere nice, she ends up getting the same meals, usually either a burger or chicken tenders and fries. We could be going to an authentic Nepalese restaurant, and she will get the French fries and white rice. To me, it's kind of embarrassing to go to a restaurant where there is a dress code and for her to order chicken tenders and fries. It especially bothers me since that I typically pay. I end up paying $15 for chicken tenders that I could get from the freezer section at Walmart for $5. Recently, in our area, a very nice dinner place opened up and my girlfriend has been dying to go. I took a look at the place and the menu and saw that it looked nice, but that the food was kind of pricey. She said she was probably going to get chicken tenders as per usual. I asked her what's the point of going then if I can toss some tenders in the air fryer for her and not spend a ridiculous amount of money on it. She asked why I had an attitude about this, and I told her that I thought it was a waste of time and money to go to a nice place to get little kid food. She interpreted this as me calling her a little kid. I clarified that I wasn't calling her a child, however it's kind of childish for her to eat the way she does. I also said if she's going to order food we can make at home, there's not any point in us going anywhere. This led to an argument about me thinking I'm better than her. Am I the a-hole? Oh gee, what do you reckon? I'm going to go with not the a-hole. Honestly, she sounds like she needs to grow up. Like, how can you be that fussy of an eater? Like, I get it if you have allergies or something, but like, honestly, who doesn't eat eggs or anything spicy or onions and garlic? Like, honestly, grow up. Yeah, I'm with OP on this one. She is acting like a child. What do you guys reckon? Let me know. Alrighty, our next story was written by Helpless Dad 2785 and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for interrupting my son's date so he could pick up his little sister? I'm a single father, 43 male, to 2 children, Max, 17 male, and Liza, 8 female. I usually have Liza in after-school clubs so that I'm able to pick her up after work. However, last evening I was given some work that had me working overtime. I did try my best to negotiate out of it, but my manager told me that the assignment was to be completed by that night, so I just did. It was nearing towards 6 p.m, and I just knew I wouldn't be able to make it to Liza, so I called Max and asked him to pick her up. He responded by saying that he couldn't because he was on a date with his girlfriend for their 6-month anniversary. I told him that I understood, but that I really needed him to get Liza, and that I'd make it up to him for interrupting. He just angrily turned off the phone, and I thought that while he was mad he had just decided to pick her up. 30 minutes later, I receive a call from Liza's school on where I was because the school was close to closing down and no one was there. Luckily, one of Liza's friend's mother said they'd drop her off, and that was all good. However, I don't really like it when Liza goes with that particular friend, not because of the friend but because of the mother. She has this habit of asking math questions in the car that she knows Liza is unable to answer and then criticises her over it. It's all just very mean. I called Max and asked him where he was and that he was in big trouble when he got home. He just told me that he was busy and to leave him the hell alone. He came home at around 9 p.m. I told him he was grounded and that he was not allowed to use the car for a good 3 weeks. At that, he got all mad and said that it wasn't his fault I was failing as a parent and unable to afford someone to collect Liza. Just want some insight on this situation. Was I being too harsh? And am I the a-hole for interrupting his date? Edit. This is the 3rd time I've asked Max to pick up his sister in the span of a year and a half. Some people are asking why I don't have a nanny. Money is tight. Max and Liza's mother is not present in their lives, and no, I did not think of socialising myself with the parents at Liza's school. I'm at work most times, so I haven't found time outside of the yearly parent meetings. Please refrain from insulting my son. Oh gee, that's a tricky one. I'm going to go with not the a-hole. Honestly, I think everyone can probably be a little better in this situation. The dad for communicating with his son and letting him know that he may be a contingency plan when the dad's stuck at work, and also the son for being more understanding of the father's situation, and just the situation in general with the sister. I thought this comment summed it up perfectly. Okay, I'll take the bullet here. Not the a-hole. You're not failing as a parent. You had to work overtime, not out drinking or frickin' off. Your son was in the wrong here for not helping, turning the phone off and calling you out for it. But you two need to talk this out and discuss expectations. If you expect him to be part of the contingency plan, there needs to be crystal clear on that. And what happens to car privies when he doesn't? My husband cheated, so I told everyone. He has nothing right now and definitely doesn't care. I'm 7 months pregnant now, but when I was 5 months, I found out he was cheating. While I was in the hospital with pneumonia. I just posted about my mum, but I kinda want to get everything off my chest. He is adopted, but knows his biological family. I told his adopted family, biological family, my friends, his friends, etc. A lot came out when I found out. I found out he cheated on every girlfriend he's had. I'm now friends with his exes, who he lied to about everything as well. He told me he wasn't in contact with them, and they found out about me when his mum died, and I was in her obituary because, shocker, she's my mother-in-law. He says I ruined his life. I want to. He's hiding like a coward. He won't answer messages from anyone. He tried telling my mother that he spoke to an attorney, and I made him feel guilty for not being happy when he mentioned it. Never happened. In fact, when I asked if he was cheating, he swore on his mother's grave he wasn't. A lie. There's so much to this story, but I just don't understand how some people can do this. He wanted his perfect wife and kids, and his little girlfriend on the side. He was never going to leave me, and now he's not responding to my divorce attorney. I want him out of my life, since he was so unhappy. But suddenly he's too busy for the divorce he claims he wants. Or it started claiming when I kicked him out of the house. When I told him to leave because he was cheating, he told me he's been unhappy a long time and spoke to a lawyer a month ago, but didn't know what to tell me. So he cheated and lied to hide it for weeks. He wanted the baby I'm pregnant with. I didn't want another for 2 more years, but now that we're not together, he says it's my choice and I can have full custody. He's mad at me because his affair partner was also cheating on her boyfriend, and I told said boyfriend. Apparently, because I did that, my husband doesn't have to apologize for what he did to me because I'm trying to ruin his and his new girlfriend's life. He said he's not sorry, he doesn't regret it, and he's accepted what he's done, and I need to get over it. But he can't even say the words, I cheated, just, you don't know my side, and I've accepted what I've done. I want him to suffer like I am, and he has no one. But I know he doesn't care because he's twisted it in his mind so that he's justified because I told everyone what he did, so clearly I'm the bad guy. If he had a side, he would tell his whole family so that they wouldn't hate him, but instead he blocks their numbers. He knows he can't lie to anyone who can ask me because I have all the proof, and anything he says I can disprove, so he says nothing, yet insists he's not in the wrong. I really know how to pick them. Now I'm a single mum of 2. Opie then gives more info in the comments. I felt like if I didn't then, it would give him a chance to convince me that it was my fault somehow. Now I have even his family at my back telling me to not ever take him back, and that honestly is a big help to keeping me from breaking down and trying to fix him so my family can be whole. His brother logged into his Facebook and made a post about what he did, so he deleted his Facebook the next morning, lol. When we got together, I told him cheating was my hard line, no forgiveness. He said he understands because he's been cheated on, lie. Little did I know he had a girlfriend when we got together. I still don't understand how he thought that was okay somehow. Based on new evidence, I believe the affair partner knew about me and they had some sort of we both have partners so we both have something to lose agreement. But when I first messaged her, after she stopped ignoring me the first 2 days, she said, he says that he's divorcing you and the baby isn't his. Oh geez, let's have a look at some comments. He's a habitual liar, I wouldn't trust any excuse he made. Opie then replies, I agree, I still love him which I hate, but I know that the man I love never existed. The man I loved, who sang to me on our wedding day, only talked about how happy he was, and how he had everything he ever wanted, etc., etc. He never would have done this, acted like this, and said those things. He was a persona, and everyone fell for it. I hate him for that too. How do you justify acting like that? He's a freaking child. You're better off. I would have told everyone too. Lamau, is this guy real? I'm constantly making the comment that there are social consequences to cheating. No one is obligated to hide anyone's infidelity. Why do cheaters think that they get to have it all? I also want to go ahead and guarantee that when he said you can have full custody of the kid, that means he thinks he won't be on the hook for child support or anything to do with the child. So you can go ahead and get full custody and full child support. Now let's move on to the update to this story, 7 months later. This is kind of a small update, but I was excited and remembered this account, so I wanted to say that you don't have to be healed for things to be better. Good things can still happen even if you're sad. Thus far, I've gotten a pay rise at work, and come the new year, I'll be promoted and take over my own store with another pay rise. I've been going out more and enjoying myself. I have concert tickets and hockey tickets that I'm very excited about. I had my son in October, and in January I started eating healthier, and I've lost 20 pounds so far. I'm seeing someone, sort of. We are exclusive, on accident. Just kind of stop seeing others in favour of each other, but not official, and he makes me smile. I went to the dealership we got our cars from, and found out that the ex has been telling people that I cheated and was abusive. They gave me a free oil change because they felt so bad when I broke down. I proved that it was a lie and talked to them for a while. I knew he would do that, but it's nice to have proof, and it's exactly why I kept everything I had. As for my husband, the judge officially signed the divorce decree in January. I've been in no contact with him since June 2022, so I wasn't getting a lot of updates there until the now ex-affair partner messaged me. I knew that his car had a repo order on it, and that he was struggling dating, but that he had found someone. He has his whole family blocked. But on Thanksgiving, she messaged me that she had left him, and she was sorry. I didn't message her back until this month because I just wasn't ready. But I did, and found out that he's been fired from 3 jobs since I left him, and now he doesn't have her either. I do think he's seeing someone, and I think I figured out who, but I don't want to be involved even though I want to warn her. I'm torn, but I decided to let him do as he does because I don't want to give him a reason to reach out. He has reached out to my mother once because he was posted in a toxic men Facebook group with a warning for other girls and decided it was me. Even then, he didn't even ask how our son was. He has never met him or seen him or asked about him. My in-laws are still my family, and my grandmother-in-law calls every week to talk to me. My aunt and sister-in-law are coming to my oldest son's birthday so he can see his cousins on that side, and they can see me. So, in all, I'm doing good, and he is not. But I am not official with the guy I'm seeing for a couple of reasons. I'm still paranoid, anxious, and stressed. I don't fully trust my instincts. I am aware of all of that. Better things are still happening, and I'm sure it will get better. I am excited to one day be fully healed and living a good life. I don't know how long that will take, but that's okay. The only thing besides all that is that he has yet to pay child support or any of the money he was ordered to pay in the divorce, so we'll have to go back to court to enforce that. Who knows what hell that will bring. Now for a couple more comments. Small update. This is tremendous. You're free of him and tracking upwards. Well done to you. Opie replies, "Thank you. I felt it was small because I only did what I said I would, but I'll admit the amount of joy I felt when the judge signed is comparable to very little, and I'm doing good, if a little strung out emotionally. I'm so happy you are free, but truthfully, I'll leave him alone. Focus on yourself." Opie replies, "Yeah, I think it's for the best. I feel for her, but I just don't think it's something I want to stick my nose in." Yeah, so there you have it, guys. That's that story done. Let me know what you guys think about this relationship and maybe how Opie can move forward to improve herself. Personally, I think that was a great update. Doesn't really get much better than that, other than obviously the emotional abuse that she's suffered over the years is still affecting her, and rightly so. But it looks like Opie's on the right track here. I don't really have any advice to give because it's such a unique situation that I personally haven't had any experience in, I guess. But yeah, I think it's a good idea to kind of leave yourself out of the other relationship he has with his new girlfriend. I get the idea of wanting to go to her and warning her, but, like you said, it's best to leave things as is and let him burn the bridge down and not get involved that way. Alrighty, now on to the next one. This story was posted by user Tear Nyball, and it's titled, "Would I be the a-hole if I filed another noise complaint about my neighbour's very loud toddler?" I'm really torn about this. I, female 33, work fully remote and am a bit of a homebody, so I'm usually in my apartment most of the time, either working or living my life as one does. Several months back, we had a family move in across the hall from us, with a little girl around 2 or 3 years old. They moved in over the course of 2 weeknights, so lots of banging and shout talking in the halls between 10 and 12 at night, so not a good first impression for both myself and my roommate. Over the months they've been here, their little one has proven to be extremely vocal. While working, she'll often scream bloody murder at the top of her lungs, loud enough that it feels like she's standing directly in my apartment. I've had people on calls with me, while I'm wearing headphones, ask who is screeching in the background, and I have to apologise and state that it's my neighbour's child. Even at night, I'll hear her screaming all the way in my bedroom, which is the farthest room in my apartment from the front door. It's not so much I'm scared screaming, that would warrant a different call, or yay, I'm a toddler having fun screaming. It's more, I'm throwing a tantrum screaming, and there are some days where it's near constant. I'll be doing laundry on the bottom floor, we're on the top floor, and I can hear her all the way on the first floor just yelling and screaming, clear as day. I've called and complained about them to our office. They also shout talk in the hallway to each other when they have visitors, and no carpet in the halls means it echoes and is loud. And I know multiple other neighbours of mine, both on the same floor and downstairs, have called with complaints too. Yesterday I'd called in with a bad migraine, and even in my room with the door closed, I could hear her going full air raid siren, even until 10 p.m, and that just made my blood boil. It doesn't even sound like her parents try to get her to calm down. I've spoken to my friends with kids about this, and they've told me to just keep it moving, because parenting is hard. I'm an aunt to 2 spectacular kids, so I get it, but I don't think I should have to deal with an out-of-control toddler who screams all day and night. My neighbours already have 2 violations for excessive noise, and I believe 1 more could get them evicted. While the noise is definitely an issue they've been warned about multiple times by management, I should add that they don't speak English, or I would have talked to them myself, and interferes with both my work and downtime. I can't help but feel immensely guilty, knowing I may get a little girl and her family evicted. But even as I write this post, she is banshees shrieking and has been on and off for close to half hour. Would I be the a-hole if I filed another noise complaint, even though it may result in a family getting evicted? OP elaborates on the situation in the comments. The insulation here is actually pretty great. I've lived here for quite a while and this is the only issue that has ever really affected me. The woman next to me has a kid and I don't hear a peep out of them. A couple of times I've heard him cry in the hall or splash around in the tub and that's fine. It's faint and I can barely hear it. This is near constant screaming from across the hall to my place. And about the parents, they're literally in the apartment all day too. Their car never moves from their parking space, and right now it's winter so going outside probably wouldn't be too nice since it's so cold, but they never leave, and I think her having a place to run around and play would help a ton. This isn't Section 8 housing though, and the husband works. The wife stays at home in the apartment all day with the kid, and I don't want to break my lease as I have a roommate to consider, and it's $1,000 to break it. Working at a friend's is a no-go as I deal in very confidential information and either have to work from home or the office. And as I have a chronic pain condition that can flare up randomly, I feel better physically and mentally working from home. Also, I've lived here 8 years. They've been here about 4 months. If anyone should move, it's them. Sorry if that sounds harsh, but this is my home. They don't speak English. I tried to say hi and strike up a conversation when they first moved in, and they just shook their head and said, no English. Now for some comments. Clearly you're not the only person who feels this way, as they have had other noise complaints against them. If they have received those complaints and still done nothing to change the situation, then they only have themselves to blame. I get that parenting can be extremely difficult and there may be issues that they are struggling to solve with their daughter, but in that case, they need to find somewhere to live where they aren't causing their neighbours problems. Maybe apartment living is not for them. You're definitely not the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. I get it, having and raising kids is not easy, and younger ones throw tantrums, it's part of life. But for it to be constant, it's intruding on everyone else's quiet enjoyment of their living space. I'm an uncle to a special needs child, Downs and autism, and this is not normal. Not the a-hole. You're entitled to a reasonable noise level. Yes, you can expect some noise from kids and pets, but you shouldn't have to hear screaming all day, and the parents should do their damn job. Yes, the parents have their needs, but so do you. Now let's move on to the update. Hello again. It's been about a month since my original post, and I thought I'd provide an update. Before I get into it, I just wanted to thank you all for reading my original post and offering your opinion on the matter, whether it was making me the a-hole or not. However, to those who told me to pay the $1,000 lease breaking fee or buy a house, I take PayPal, Cash App and Venmo. So, to cut right to it, I ended up filing another noise complaint against the neighbours across the hall after a particularly bad tantrum that involved not only screaming and crying, but banging against their front door as well. It lasted from 6:30 p.m. to roughly 10 p.m, and I managed to get a small snippet on video to show the office staff. The next day I went to the leasing office and showed the manager the video from the night prior. Needless to say, she was appalled and apologised profusely, stating she didn't realise that they were being that loud on a daily basis. She had me fill out another written complaint and said that they would be sending out a final warning, meaning that if they didn't get their act together in a week, they would be served a 30-day eviction notice. While I filled out another written complaint, she explained to me that the family was Indian and confirmed that neither the husband or wife spoke English, though the wife could understand a bit. She also said that every time they came to the office, the little girl would run around screaming and jumping on furniture while the mum ignored her behaviour. Even when they went to sign the lease, she said they brought at least 8 other people and their kids with them, and these kids would also run around screaming and jumping on the furniture. I know it was suggested she could be on the spectrum or have a disability, but since the other kids were behaving like this, I think it's more learned behaviour. After the warning was sent out, it was quiet. Too quiet. I noticed their carport was empty as well as their other car, and it wasn't until the other day when I was coming up the stairs after doing laundry that I saw an older gentleman leaving the apartment. I smiled and gave a polite nod and managed to see that their apartment was completely empty. No furniture, no nothing. It seems like they abandoned the place as eviction. From what the office staff told me, wouldn't be that quick. So that's my update. It looks like instead of taking the 7-day warning, they just abandoned their lease instead. They also had visitors, so I think they have a very supportive community around them and probably moved in with friends. While the situation overall sucks, I'm glad that it didn't come to eviction. Thanks again to all of you, and I hope your day is full of awesome. So there you go guys, that's the end of that one. Another good ending, I think. Personally, I probably would have done the same. I don't think OP's the a-hole in this situation. The disturbing of the piece here seemed pretty extreme, and I would have gone to the same lengths. Either way, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Would you have done the same, or would you have been more lenient perhaps? Let me know. Okay, our final story today is from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user FrostyLock1774, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my brother he should have been a better father if he didn't want his son taken away? My brother was a single dad for the first 6 years of his son's life. Then my brother met his wife Emma and Emma's son Logan. Logan and my nephew had a very oil and water relationship and were not close at all. They were stepbrothers for about 18 months and had known each other for about 3 years when Logan died suddenly. Emma fell apart, unsurprisingly. My nephew confided in me a few times that he felt like everyone expected him to be feeling and reacting differently than he did. He told me he wasn't glad Logan was dead, and it was sad, but he didn't feel like he lost anyone. He said he thought Emma was beginning to notice more, since he wasn't crying and didn't really have much trouble continuing with life as normal. I told him it was okay to feel that way, as long as he was compassionate of others, and if he needed to talk, he could always come to me. My nephew turned 17 3 months ago, and he begged to move in with my family. Things were bad with my brother and Emma. For about a year before, Emma had been quizzing my nephew about Logan and all things connected. Then before Christmas, she decided to spy on my nephew and his friends. His friend had lost his dad and sister in a car crash, and my nephew was consoling him. She heard my nephew say he hadn't ever experienced a personal loss before, and wasn't sure how it would go, but he would always let his friend talk. Emma went nuts on the boys and chased the friend off, who was already upset. My nephew ended up yelling at her and the other boy's mum, and grandparents called my brother. My brother told my nephew he should be ashamed of himself for being so dismissive of his brother's death. This is when my nephew called. I was able to let him stay, mostly due to the police not wanting to drag him back to my brother's house. He called them, and my having already contacted CPS in order to talk about what was going on, and they sent someone to talk to my nephew and then my brother and Emma, so my nephew gets to stay with me. My brother has accused me of taking his son away from him and told me I should be ashamed of myself. He said it wasn't my place to get so involved. I told him I didn't take his son, he chose to leave, and that if he didn't want his son taken away, he should have been a better father. This is when he told me I was overstepping, and I should see his point of view, and how awful it is what my nephew has said and done. Am I the a-hole? Jeez, this is a tricky one, isn't it? I'm personally going to go with not the a-hole here. The nephew can't help how he feels, and I think you just supporting those feelings is nothing wrong with that, to be honest. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm interested to hear some other ideas. My husband got rid of my cat to someone who won't give him back. After my dad passed, I was feeling very down, like I had a hole that I couldn't fill. I was finding it hard to keep myself busy around the house during the day, so I decided to adopt my cat, Benji. I rescued him when he was so small. He fit in the palm of my hand, and I've had him for 2 years. This may sound crazy to some, but I really believe Benji is the reincarnation of my dad. When I look into his eyes, I feel something more than a cat, like a cat born with a human soul. All the timing adds up. It all makes sense to me at least. Even if I'm crazy, the thought brings me comfort, and I don't see anything wrong with it. My husband thinks this is strange and unhealthy. He says my bond with the cat freaks him out, and makes him uncomfortable that I truly believe he has my dad's soul. It's been 2 years since he died. Benji really saved me. He's the best companion I could have asked for. I mean, there's nothing better than being able to cuddle up with an animal that loves you at the end of a long day, though hubby would disagree. Now, I went on a girls' trip with my sisters and mum for her birthday, and while I was gone, my husband decided he was going to rehome my cat without my permission. I had no idea what was going on while I was out. When I came home and couldn't find my cat, the first thought was that he must have somehow made his way outside. This already worried me because we never let him out. God knows what could happen to him out there. After my frantic search inside and on my way outside to keep searching, hubby informs me that Benji is staying with a friend. What? So I demanded that he called to take him back ASAP. He wouldn't, but thankfully he had told me who he gave my cat to, so I had to make some calls of my own. Benji is currently stuck with my husband's co-worker. We aren't good friends, but we are friendly, have dinner together sometimes, etc. So I called the co-worker asking for my cat back, and he tells me my husband gave him away fair and square, and he won't be returning the cat. My husband has no right. The cat has always been only mine. I adopted him, I raised him, I care for him. I'm the only one who ever spends any money on him. I'm at a loss right now. Benji has never been through anything like this, and I can only imagine the stress he must be feeling right now. I know I sure am. So many things are racing through my mind right now. My cat's safety, extreme disappointment in my husband. I'm disgusted he would even think about something like this. I have no idea what to do now and where to start. I just want my cat back safely, and then we'll have to deal with hubby. Holy moly, what an outrageous thing for the husband to do. Let's have a look at the comments. I assume you have paperwork on the cat, from a vet or a breeder, and can prove it's yours. Animals are property. This is theft. Call the police. Threaten your husband with divorce and his friend with the police. The cat was not your husband's to give away. I would consult with an attorney about how to go about getting Benji back. You can also speak with animal control and the police, just to cover your bases. I would also be consulting a divorce attorney, but that's your decision, of course. Yeah, I agree with these comments. That behaviour between couples is unacceptable, like not consulting you first, and especially when he knows how much that cat means to you. Unacceptable. Anyway, let's jump to the update. Thank you all for the support and advice. It means so much to me. I would have never expected to get so much reach. You are all such kind souls. First, I filed a police report. I collected as much proof of ownership as possible. Then I reached out to the co-worker's wife and explained what was going on, and promptly asked them to return Benji. She then informed me that she had no idea what I was talking about. At this point I was furious with rage. I asked my husband WTF was going on. Told him I have police involved and he needs to get up the cat ASAP. Turns out Benji was at a local shelter, never was with the co-worker at all. I immediately tracked the shelter down to retrieve my boy. I had all my documents needed to prove he is mine, and he has a microchip. I took him straight to my sister's house, where I'll also be staying for the time being. My sister had been through divorce and has remarried, so she will help me get all my ducks in a row and prepare to file for divorce. I'm heartbroken, but also incredibly thankful that my poor boy is now home safe. He was clearly stressed and confused, but he is settling in quite well at my sister's. My brother will be picking up any necessities from my house for me. I haven't been home or seen my husband since I left for the shelter. My family has supported me in my decisions, and they are all willing to do whatever it takes to help me when I may need them. Again, thank you all so much for the kind words and concern. I was so surprised to see people wanting Benji updates. This experience has been very eye-opening to say the least, in so many ways. Alrighty folks, that's the end of that one. Good to see that OP got her cat back. It just always surprises me how people like the husband can think of doing something like this and not think, hey, this might end my relationship or something like that. Like, what do you expect? Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, our next story was from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It's written by user Diabetic Bridesmaid, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for refusing to remove my medical equipment during my sister's wedding? My sister is getting married next weekend, and I'm a bridesmaid. I'm a type 1 diabetic and I wear 2 medical devices, a Dexcom blood sugar monitor on one arm, and an Omnipod insulin pump on the other. They're both really small, under 2 inches each, and work together to automatically monitor and regulate my blood sugar levels. This basically means I don't have to prick my fingers to test blood sugar or give myself insulin injections. The system does that automatically and makes my life way easier. Today when we were trying on our dresses, my sister told me she wants me to not wear them during the wedding because the gowns are sleeveless and the devices will look ugly in the photos. I told her I wasn't okay removing them. They're essential medical equipment, and I'm not going to put myself in a position to affect my health just for some photos. My sister complained to our mother and some of our friends, and they're all taking her side. They say it's no big deal if I just don't wear them during the wedding, but I don't see why I should. Mum suggested I could move them to my stomach, but I've tried that before and find it incredibly uncomfortable. When I put a new sensor on, I'm stuck with it for 10 days until it expires, and I can switch to a new one. And I don't want to be stuck with one on my stomach where it will bother me the entire time. They're all complaining that I'm not willing to compromise at all, but I don't think my health should be an area where anyone can ask that I compromise at all. Am I the a-hole? Yeah, I think OP's pretty right in the fact that there's no compromise on their health. However, I can kind of understand the sentiment of the sister. But yeah, definitely not the a-hole for me. Let's have a look at the comments. Not the a-hole. Promptly decline the invitation to attend if your sister cares more about her aesthetic wants than your medical needs. Not the a-hole. Photoshop exists for reasons just like this. Asking you to compromise your health is selfish of them, not to mention unreasonable. Not the a-hole. Your sister's photographer can edit the devices out of the photos if she is really so bothered by their appearance, but as they will literally help you stay alive and healthy, it's unreasonable and dangerous to ask you to remove them. I can't believe all your family would rather you get sick or be physically uncomfortable for days just so your sister can have pretty photos. I'm so sorry, you deserve more respect and empathy. Not the a-hole. How absolutely vapid and shallow and just downright selfish. And your mum and friends agree with her? How on earth do you have so many horrible people in your life? I hate this trend of perfectly curated photo shoots to erase reality. Photos should show what is, and there is nothing wrong with what is. Yeah, pretty spot on there. Let's jump to the update. Oh my gosh, thank you so much to everyone for the responses. I didn't expect this post to blow up the way it did at all, so I have an update for everyone. I don't want to involve others hoping to settle this between myself and my mum and sister, but my brother got wind of what happened last night and absolutely tore my mum and sister a new one about how hurtful it was to suggest I go without my devices just for her wedding photos. He then told my grandfather, who was paying for the wedding. Grandpa apparently drove an hour into town this afternoon just to tell my mother how disappointed he was and that he must have gone wrong somewhere in raising her. He told her that if they didn't apologise and make things right, my mum should figure out how to pay for all of the outstanding wedding costs herself. Now I do think this was a bit extreme. I wasn't looking to cause this much trouble for my mum and sister, but it seems to have worked because they called me to apologise and said it was wrong of them to suggest I go without my monitor and pump, and we can find a way to dress it up instead. I accepted their apologies. We decided to try wearing flower corsages over each device so they can't be seen. If that doesn't work, we can try a shawl, as many of you suggested. Again, thank you all for the support. I'll be giving my grandpa a big hug and buying my little brother dinner tonight as a thank you for having my back on this. Maybe it seems minor to some, but it was really upsetting to me that my own family turned on me when it came to my own health. So it was a really big deal to me that they unconditionally supported me when my mum and sister wouldn't. There you go, guys, a pretty good ending. Yeah, I think wearing a corsage or a shawl over it is a pretty good compromise in this situation. Like, it was always going to be a pretty easy fix hiding the monitor or anything like that. So, you can kind of understand both sides of the argument here. But yeah, it's definitely selfish for the family to suggest it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments, and we'll jump to our next story. Okay, our next story was written by user SaltyPension300, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for trashing the gift my girlfriend got me? Throwaway. So me, 28 male, and my girlfriend, 30 female, have been together for 8 years, and we have been living together for 4 years. Girlfriend has always been the artsy type, and always had some personal project going, but she has the tendency to get lost in her own world. We celebrated my birthday last weekend, and she ended up getting me a pencil lengthener. I don't use pencils, and the lengthener in question didn't even fit your typical number 2. It was purely for coloured pencils. I also don't colour. When she asked me if I liked it, I just quietly walked outside our home and tossed it in the trash. She was understandably upset and called me an a-hole for doing that, claiming that I could have at least tried it. Here's the thing. She's been doing things like this ever since we started living together. She's been gifting me things that she likes and ultimately ends up using them. For example, last year she got a packet of Sailor Moon stickers. I don't watch Sailor Moon, and she ended up using them all. She also gifted me a jewellery box one time. I don't wear jewellery, so guess who's been using it all this time? First world problems at its finest. So it's been a few days and she's still upset and has even got both of our parents to berate me for trashing the gift. She even admitted she knew I'd hate it and was planning on using it after I calmed down in a few days. A detail that she did share with others, but I'm still getting name called. Am I really the a-hole? Edit. Nearly every comment says we need to talk about this. The thing is, we have, and more than once. She admitted she does this because she wants something, but decides to gift it to me to say I tried. I asked if I gave her a wish list would that help, and she said that she'd never look at it, and well, she didn't when I made one and sent one to her. She, on the other hand, does have a wish list, which I do get her stuff from, and some of that stuff is actually expensive. I can kind of understand both sides here, and both sides are not particularly great. Let's see what the comments think. Everyone sucks here. Walking out and trashing it like a drama queen makes you a jerk. She's also an ass for giving you stuff that she knows you won't use. You're meant to talk about your feelings and about your expectations, not act like you acted here. OP replies, I wouldn't say I'm a drama queen. I didn't yell or scream or anything. I just had a disappointed look on my face, and she just pieced together what I'd done. I literally didn't say anything during the ordeal. Everyone sucks here, but you should have directly talked to her about this way beforehand if it's something you say she does constantly. OP says, Actually, I have. We've had many talks about this. She does this on purpose because she wants a certain something and decides to gift it to me so she can say, I tried. I offered to give her a wish list, but she literally said she'd never look at it, and she did indeed not look at it. Everyone sucks here. I have to ask, do you ever give her gifts? OP replies, Yes, I do. I actually go over the top with her gifts. She wanted a Nintendo Switch. I got her a Switch and she legit played it till she got carpal tunnel. Still uses the cast once in a while. Do you tell her about anything you may like, or does she have to figure it out? OP replies, I sent her a wish list, which she never bothered to look at. Yeah, to be honest, I think both parties are being pretty immature about this whole situation. But I'm leaning more so towards the girlfriend being the more immature one. Like, the fact that they've talked about it multiple times, and she still does that would rightfully frustrate me as well. And the fact that she admits that she buys presents for herself under the guise of being a present for him, yeah, it's really quite toxic. So yeah, I understand OP's frustration here. Let's move on to an update. I was not expecting this much attention. I want to thank everyone for commenting and giving advice. Sorry I couldn't get to you all. I wasn't expecting to make an update, but there's been a development. Before that, I want to address a few things. Many commenters said that my girlfriend is a narcissist or has some personality disorder. Probably should have mentioned this before, but she has ADHD, which she is medicated for, so she has always been pretty scatterbrained. However, it did get noticeably worse when we moved in together, such as blowing plans because she either forgot completely or forgot the part where we agreed on them, or completely forgetting to do any errands or chores because she is just so invested in something, usually an art project. There was one comment that resonated with me, that said that I must have been conditioned to accept this kind of behaviour. That is accurate. My parents always instilled into me to be grateful and happy for getting anything at all, because they got nothing when they were younger. If I got a sack of crap as a gift, I was expected to dance like a happy prospector if this at all explains my tolerant or doormat behaviour. The update. Despite using a throwaway, my girlfriend still found the post. She was very miffed by the responses and tried to vent to her friends, but they weren't on her side. She then decided to show the post to her and my siblings. They wanted to know if it was true, and when confirmed, they all yelled at her, and they got our respective parents to calm down and stop talking about it. She came to me over the weekend, and after talking about it since then, we kind of worked over several things. She recognised that she really did screw up, and as an apology she gave me this cool dragon diffuser I've been wanting for a while, and a box of all the stuff I was gifted, telling me I may do whatever I please with them. She's also open to not receiving gifts for the next couple of special occasions, which I will be doing. So when it came down to her selfish gift giving, apparently what she meant by "I tried" was her forgetting about these occasions up until the last minute and not wanting to admit it. She hastily gets them off of Amazon from whatever shows up first on her homepage and just hopes I'll like them enough to not say anything negatively and uses them when I won't. She refuses to look at my wish list because gifts should be a surprise, but when I brought up her list, she had no answer. She said she'll look at mine from now on. I don't think this is a deal breaker, but it does need to end, and while most of you are right, there were other issues. We have agreed to therapy, single and couples, which she will pay for. This may not be what you were expecting, but I think it's a good start. Alright guys, so that's the end of that one. Pretty good ending, I have to say. To be honest, I didn't think this relationship would last any longer than this post, but turns out, looks like they're happy to work things out, which is always good to hear, I guess. But if I was OP, I probably would have thrown out the gift as well, now that I know the history behind everything. Let me know what you guys would do. Alright, now for our last story for today. Okay, our last story was posted on the same subreddit. It's written by user BigCard9984, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for not helping my sister pay for her wedding, even though I could easily afford it, just because of a petty reason? I, 33 female, have a younger sister, Jamie, 31 female, who got engaged to her fiancé a few months ago, and now she's deep into wedding planning. Our parents gifted us $25,000 each as a wedding present when we got engaged to help with the wedding expenses and just help us get started with some savings. For background, I got married 2 years ago to my husband, and we practically had little to no expenses. We just did a small wedding ceremony and celebration in my parents' backyard, and I used my mum's old dress, so our only expenses were really just food and photography. Due to this, we saved $20,000 of the money we were gifted and just put it into savings. Although my husband and I were happy with our day, Jamie had a lot to say. She practically spent every single family event after the wedding gossiping about how much my wedding was so trashy and cheap. I think she expected a lot more from me because I work as a software engineer and my husband is a surgeon, and we could have afforded to have a much nicer wedding. Now it's time for her wedding, and she has plans to go all out for it, which I wouldn't care about if she could afford it, but instead she has become a greedy bridezilla, asking anyone and everyone for cash. My parents refused to give more than the original $25,000, and other family members have chipped in, but maybe $5,000 max combined. Unfortunately, my sister knows I saved the $20,000 from my parents, and that my husband and I have a good amount of money saved up because of our salaries. She has been asking me non-stop to give her the $20,000 as a wedding gift, or help pay for another one of her events, like the bridal shower, bachelorette, rehearsal dinner, or honeymoon. Her reasoning is that my husband and I could easily afford to gift her one of these things, and I even gifted my cousin a honeymoon vacation as a wedding gift last year, so why couldn't I do something similar for my only sibling when I did that for a cousin? She's right in the sense that I could easily afford to pay for parts of her wedding, but in all honesty, I don't want to give her anything after she treated me so poorly following my own wedding. I told her my reasoning, and that I don't want to, financially, support someone who doesn't support me on my big day, and now she's been going around telling family that I'm extremely selfish and immature for this. Apparently, she has already put down deposits on a lot of services and vendors for her plans, and just expected me to pay for it, but now she has no way of paying the vendors, and she can't get her deposits back either. So now my family wants me to help her out, so she doesn't lose the little money that she already has. I just don't see how this is my problem. Am I the a-hole? In my opinion, no, definitely not the a-hole. I mean, it's your money that you got given. It was her onus to stay in her budget, and she wasn't smart enough to do that, I guess. And yeah, incredibly selfish for her to just expect everyone to cover the costs for her. No self-awareness whatsoever. Opie doesn't owe her anything. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Would you help the sister out, or would you let her suffer? I'd probably do the latter, to be honest. Husband said, I don't want to pick the bee who's making me pick. What now? Signing off for the last time. Goodbye all. I'm very distraught, so I apologise in advance for any mistakes. My, 27 female, husband, 28 male, and I have been together for 7 years and married for 3. He has always had a porn problem and has acknowledged he's addicted. I've tried everything, absolutely everything to help him, but he never seems to get better. He said everyone, including the 2 therapists he has seen, have been completely flabbergasted at my reaction to his constant porn and smut-writing role-plays he's been doing. He says they all say I'm in the wrong. He says I have absolutely no right to control what he does in his free time when it comes to porn and smut-writing, and it's my problem because it hurts me, that it only hurts because I let it. Last night I said, please, just pick me or the porn and smut. He replied with, I don't want to pick the bee who's making me pick. I've tried so hard to be enough. He told me he'd lie and go to porn because I cried too much, asked too many questions, reacted badly when he told me, etc. I changed all of it. I've done everything he's asked, yet he talks to me and treats me like I'm trash. He chooses the girls online when I'm right here loving him as best as I can. I just want to be loved too. I'm not a bad person. I'm as loving as I can be. I've been exhausted trying to help this man because I love him. I feel completely defeated. Even if I leave, no one will ever love me because I'm so needy, anxious, insecure and scared. I'm broken beyond repair because of my porn-addicted husband. I don't know what I expect from this subreddit, but I hope someone can give me some good advice, or even just a positive thought. Alrighty guys, I probably should have warned you before. Strap yourselves in, this is going to be a long one. So our next post is from the husband, a day after that one. Okay, so I don't usually do this, but I guess it's forced now. I apologise for any typos or whatnot, as I'm fairly upset at the moment, and I do hope you'll be patient with me and the drama that's spilling out. Again, this will probably be all over the place, as I'm spilling my heart out, and can't really put hours into editing to make it flow well. Anyways, hi Reddit. This is the alt account of the husband, male 28, from this post that my wife made about a day ago. As my wife said, we've been together for 7 years now, married for 3, and I have an issue with porn. Don't know when it turned bad, but I've turned to porn more or less as soon as I started having an interest in sex. Probably started as a result of me always being stuck at home due to my disability, so not really many options other than porn. I never really thought of it as a problem until a few years ago though. Decided it was an issue when I tried to give it up, and found that I had problems doing so. Found myself looking for porn, even when I felt terrible for doing it, and hated myself for it. Hell, it was so bad I didn't even do it to jack off, but to just watch it. Gross. Tons of shame. I think it's important to mention something that people seem to overlook in her post. I actively go to therapy. Some of my friends know about the issue. No one is on her side. Actual professionals tell me she needs to go to therapy herself. 3 separate therapists from 2 different practices all unanimously said that she needs help over this, with at least 2 questioning whether I even have a problem in the first place. People were commenting saying that I'm abusive and that no therapist would side with me, but you'll see her post and that's it. It's why I decided to make my own, since she's so set on making our issues public. Now, I think it's important to paint a bit of a picture as to the nature of our relationship. I mean, if I'm going to talk about something so humiliating, I may as well go big. I live in New York. My wife lives in Florida. We met on a now dead social media site that probably no one other than us even remembers it. We've dated for 2 or 3 years before I made the trip down to see her in person. She's made the trip up here a few times over the last few years as well. She's been stuck at home with her life on hold, taking care of her ill mother until we move in together, which was supposed to be this summer, but she cancelled it over this. I've just graduated law school, and I'm working on getting my license to become an attorney. Due to the distance between us, Intimacy has been hard. Add in our issues and it's practically non-existent. Even when things were good between us, we'd masturbate together once a week? That quickly turned to once every few months. Now it just never happens. She says it's just not the same after having sex in real life. She says that she doesn't want to because she hates her body and wants to wait until she loses weight. I say that it's because of how she turned the very idea of sex into this big terrible thing that I should be disgusted by. Either way, in the last year or so we've masturbated something like once or twice outside the handful of weeks we've spent together on holidays. She says I just need to take the initiative and start it, but when I do it's too late. Not today. I want to wait until I lose weight. Heck, even when we do it, I'm lucky if I get to see her chest, as she refuses to even take her shirt off, much less give me more, knowing I have an issue with porn. Now, why did I decide I need to give it up? Well, my girlfriend, who is now my wife, had an issue with it. It started when we were on that social media site, and she was in my account, and saw one of my convos with a friend. I went over the line in the conversation, complimenting one of her selfies where her panties were showing, and out of shame, I ghosted said friend. It was awkward, stupid, a mistake. I went back to talk to them a few days later, and that's when my wife saw the convo, and understandably flipped out. Note, at that point, we were together for less than a month probably, a brand new relationship. Issues spiraled. She started looking into things more, and found my RP forum that I've been cultivating since something like 12 or 14, which by that point was fairly smut-infested by myself and some friends. That got deleted into oblivion. Lost the vast majority of people I used to write with then, with only a handful of people that I knew that had other accounts elsewhere being my only forms of contact. The kicker? Never even hid the forum. Heck, I invited her to join and she just didn't feel like it at first. Not until she found out it had smut, something I never even hid. Didn't think it was an issue to hide. What's the issue about sex and stories? Writing murder is fine and dandy, but the moment these fictitious characters have sex, it's a problem and becomes smut. Well, I started hiding my actions by lying at this point, made a new forum, and resumed writing with the handful of people I could recontact. Started feeling like crap because who wants to lie to their partner? Didn't think I had an addiction then just yet, as I was mostly baffled and didn't want to give up more friends. Cue years worth of lying and sneaking around to look at porn, write smut, etc. Lost the handful of friends I had due to all the drama and having to remake forum after forum because she kept tracking them down. Found other places to write but was found out too. Now it's more or less non-existent as I'm just too dead inside to write it. I'm not even allowed to write it for my own eyes as it might make me want to start sharing my writing again. Oh, and did I mention that she thinks it's cheating? A character having sex with another character is me cheating. She writes stories where her characters fall in love and has sex, but that's okay. But if I do it, it's cheating and abusive and I'm a piece of crap that doesn't care about her. Then there's the actual porn. I remember a few years ago, she was telling me that looking at porn was cheating on her. Man, that messed me up. I refused to listen to it, but still messes with my head. She said it was me putting other women above her. My problem with porn has only gotten worse over the years, with my therapist thinking it's because of her. Something to do with her giving no intimacy or whatnot, aside from the handful of weeks we managed to get together over holidays. She'd beat me down every day as to how horrible I am, how abusive I am, how dare I treat her so terribly after everything that she's done for me. My depression quickly went from an existential crisis that every college kid goes through to me being near suicidal over it. And what did she do for me? She threatened and bullied me into giving everything up. For years I've told myself how lucky I was to have her. For years she'd tell me how lucky I was to have her. How no one else would care about me. How no one else would love me. She'd chip away at things. Started with the dozens of members on my forum, a community I spent about a decade building. Then it turned to me not being able to play certain games because they had pretty girls in them. Can't listen to certain music because it has girls in it, or it's a girl singing. Can't browse social media when out with friends. Can't hang out with friends unless she's okay with it. I used to be a social butterfly with dozens of friends from all walks of life, and now I'm down to 4 friends. And even then I should be thankful for her letting me have them. My therapist seriously worries for my life. If I lose that friend group and my wife, someone that's supposed to love me, fights me nearly every other week into either picking them or her. And when I choose her, I'm so lucky to have her allow me to keep them. That's the effort she talks about. That's what she's brought to the table, over me looking at porn and writing smut. But that's not it. If I act up too much, she threatens to go public about how I have an addiction to porn and how I write smut, something she knows I'm ashamed about, something she knows could ruin my career down the line, as we have to maintain a good public image as lawyers or risk losing our license. She threatens to make posts like what I linked to above, where people I know will see it. Heck, she's gotten into my social media accounts and made similar posts there. I had to find out from my friends who were bewildered. When my best friend confronted her, she threatened my bank account. She constantly threatens to tell my last group of friends. She threatens to tell my family. And the whole time I'm the abusive one. I'm abusing her by struggling with not looking at porn so I could pretend to have some affection in my life. In her post, she said she's tried to do, quote, everything, absolutely everything to help. Well, that's her help. That's how she tried to help me to get over looking at porn. I get people being hurt over porn in relationships, but this is too much. What's the issue with looking at porn to be pleasantly horny? What's the problem with jacking off if your significant other hasn't had sex with you in months? What's the problem with wanting to not feel dead inside? Did I do it too much? Sure, maybe. Even that's in question, as my current therapist doesn't even think I have an addiction to porn, but just am starved for any affection I can find. In her post, she asked me to pick between her and the porn, and I replied with crude, crass words. Sure, sounds horrible, but did you hear the rest of the fight? Did you hear how the choice was more than just her or porn? She was asking me to pick her or porn, her or my last few friends, her or she'd threatened to tell the world. The fight wasn't over porn in the first place. She told me she wanted me to try being social again, to reach out to my friends and game with them, make new connections, so I could whittle my group of 4 down to 2. But sure, I set that up. Other than meeting for D&D every Saturday, I just met with one of them on Friday for a game night with one of our favourite games. Upon her advice, told one of the others that I'd be getting a game he loves so I could game with him as well. Well, she flipped out. Me spending 4 hours with friends 3 times a week is way too much. She's not okay with that now, after she's the one that told me to set it up in the first place. So I said, I don't want to pick the bee who's making me pick, and she hung up and made her Reddit post. She's tried too hard to be enough by doing nothing. Her crying about me looking at porn? Yeah, that was her screaming at me about how I'm an abusive jerk and how I ruin her life, how I make her suicidal, how I'm the reason she nearly killed herself any number of given times. Her asking too many questions? That was her getting into my accounts, tracking everything I do on every device, posting on social media through my accounts to get me to confess so I'd get them back before she deletes them. She's changed all of it? Is that why she's still threatening me? Is that why she's posting on social media? And somehow by telling her I don't want to pick someone that makes me lose everything I care about, I treat her like trash? I guess I'm done now. Don't know if the sub will even react to this. She was kind enough to show me all of your responses though. Glad to see I'm abusive. Glad to see that I love porn more than I love my wife, even when I've given everything up for her. Glad to see my brain so rotted over porn, and not the years of this. Great to be told how I'm broken, how I've always been broken, how I'll always be broken. That's how she's right here loving him as best as I can. Okay, now in the comments the husband answers some questions. How the husband found out about the wife's post. She messaged me, telling me to look at it and the comments there. He then gets asked how they got married in a long-distance scenario and questioning why they even got married in the first place. He replies, legally married in the state of Florida during one of my trips down there. Not ignoring the rest of what you just said, just absorbing it. I'll keep going to therapy and may even ask for an advanced session to get through this. What he said when the wife told him about her insecurities. That I love her, that she's perfect for me, that I'm trying to pick her but I make mistakes. I went into therapy to try and tackle the problem in an attempt to become a better person for her. I cut friends off that made her uncomfortable. I stopped listening to music she found uncomfortable. I stopped playing games she found uncomfortable. She knows most of my passwords and could access any of my accounts whenever she really wanted to, etc. I know my fault in this. I know I've crossed lines I shouldn't have, but I've spent years paying for them. on counselling and trust issues. We've both planned on going to couples counselling as we both acknowledge that we desperately need it. The issue comes up and how such isn't an option until after she moves to where I am. The move itself is complicated enough, but add her trust issues and it becomes something rather terrifying. Last I heard, the move is called off. She said she'd be reaching out to my fam about the problems so they could ship her stuff. The can't trust me part falls a bit flat in my opinion. When I hang out with my friends, it's usually over Discord, with her being on Skype watching me, and the friends I was trying to be more social with were all guys. Why he decided to go so hard in his reply post? The main reasons as to why I decided to reply was due to how she's made similar posts in the past. She went on to share them with her family, who proceeded to use them against me. She'd use the comments people made to tell me how horrible I am, how no one would love me, how no one would care about me. So I decided to reply and share my side of things. Oh wow guys, what do you think about this one? It's an absolute mess. God knows how they persisted together for this long. To be honest, they both have issues that are just as serious as each other. Alright, now let's jump to the wife's response post. Edit. My husband replied in a post and he is not being truthful. None of what he says is true. Second and last edit. I chose to post on a forum I would not get much traction on. I did not put everything out there. I just put a single instance. He chose to go to one of the most popular subreddits and post absolutely everything without details or my side at all. He is sugarcoating everything he says to make it seem like he's done nothing wrong and I'm a psycho. I'm not against smut writing. I am against the taboo, very graphic content he was writing. It wasn't normal smut. It wasn't with two adult people. I was perfectly fine with normal adult smut. I have never done anything against his career. I have been his rock and told him that he wouldn't have a career if they knew the graphic taboo things he was writing. As long as he didn't write the unhinged crap he was writing and just wrote the normal smut, he would be fine. I made a lot of effort in our marriage to be sexually intimate. I sent photos, videos. My only request was that he initiated the sex online, which he didn't. In person, he jacked off so much to porn that he couldn't stay hard. It damaged my self-esteem very badly. This did change and I'm very proud of him. My issue is that lately he's been fighting for porn back, hence him calling me a B and choosing it over me, even after we've been doing very well lately. Finally, if I really wanted to hurt him, I definitely would have gone to relationship advice or a bigger subreddit and just tear him to shreds like he's done to me, and include screenshots and proof. I didn't. I went to a small subreddit looking for support for a single issue. He clearly wanted me to be ripped apart, and that's all. He got what he wanted at least. Final edit on things he said. I've never threatened his bank account. His friend was telling me I would steal his money if I could, and I replied with, although he gave me his bank account information, I wouldn't do that. So that's what the bank account issue is that he mentioned. He lied to get people on his side, which many people are. That's fine. I came on here looking to vent, and my husband came on here seeking to destroy me, which he did. But he lied to get what he wanted, while I have only been truthful. I'm hopeful that we can get to couples therapy and live a good life being happy. I'm not giving my husband up until I've exhausted all resources. I'm done replying and will no longer reply to comments. Yes, he wrote about children. It was about little girls with their fathers. It wasn't about them with animals. They are separate things. He wrote about children and also wrote about animals. No, I don't think he's a pedophile. No, he didn't jack off to this. He was just writing it. This is my final comment. The wife then answers some comments in her own comments section. Her comments about husband's roleplay forum and sexting other women. I very much said it was fine he was writing explicit content. I had no issues with it. I also have very much tried to have sexual intimacy with him. Sent him tons of videos, photos, did Skype, etc. Came up with a few ideas. I stopped because he kept choosing women online. He would watch porn. He would ask women for nudes on Snapchat. I mean, yes, watching porn, but to a point where even in person he couldn't stay hard because he was jacking off too much. I would cry because he'd just go soft. Regarding cutting off husband's female friends, can I add that I don't cut his friends off? Due to his infidelity, I had asked if it would be okay if he would just inform me that he has a female friend, so I would not panic about a random woman. He said yes, then went on to hide female friends. Had a girl under a male name in his phone. I never took friends away. I just wanted him to be honest about female friends so I would not think he's doing something with them. Her response to Skype allegations. Seriously? I asked to be called on Skype so I can still see your handsome face. I would ask even if you weren't with friends and just playing a game on your own. Plus you're muted. What now, am I a master lip reader? Lol. Clarifying what kind of porn he was writing about. He was writing smut involving children and animals. He no longer is because I gave him the ultimatum of therapy or break up. I think out of everything, I would prefer it being just kids effing animals, but it was actually little girls effing their own fathers. So yeah, he let out a lot of important things, not just that. Most of what he wrote here is bullcrap. Not all of it. I do have insecurity issues and I do have trust issues and I can be controlling, but he didn't include important parts that made me how I am. I don't see him as a monster, and never had. He's a wonderful person, and I think all of it just hurt us so deeply. I made so many mistakes. I know I did. I still do. I just hope that I can fix them. Honestly, I never saw myself as having an issue. I was hurt, and rightfully so in my opinion, but man, I really just keep bashing the hammer down. He didn't deserve that. I don't praise him enough for what he really does bring to our relationship, and I regret that. I know it's hard on him. I feel terrible for being so blinded by my own hurt and pain. I hope that our marriage isn't ending, but restarting. I hope we can rebuild from the ashes and do better for each other. I believe he has done a lot better for me from where we began. I think I have too. I've gotten a lot of genuinely good feedback here, and I understand people immediately want us to divorce, but he is such a bright spot in my life. We have a ton of issues, but I don't want to wake up and he's not there. He's my forever. I'll fix this. I hope we fix this together. Holy moly, so that's the end of that one, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. A bit of a doozy if I don't say so myself. Pretty hard to pick who exactly is at fault here, but I'm definitely leaning more towards the husband. I mean, the stuff about what he writes is just weird and plain wrong, let's be honest. But also the wife is still pretty stupid for wanting to make this work. Like at this point, just break up. It's clear there are trust issues on either side and it doesn't look like that's going to get better anytime soon. Anyway, I found a couple comments that really sum this up nicely. I'd like to discover time travel just to make sure I never read this. What a mess. Just divorce already. At this point, it doesn't matter who is telling the truth. Neither one is happy and the relationship clearly isn't working. Yeah, those two comments is how I feel about this whole thing. Let me know what you guys think about it. One of my husband's friends made me uncomfortable at our wedding, but it's my own fault. Last weekend, my husband, 27 male, and I, 30 female, got married. It was a great wedding, and I had a great time leading up to it. There's been only one thing that's left a sour taste in my mouth. Growing up, I always wanted a big princess wedding. I know some people see those as tacky and immature, but it was always my dream. As part of this, the theme for our wedding was ballroom, and I told everyone to wear the nicest things they owned, and told the women in particular to try and outshine me. I even went as far as telling the married women to wear their wedding dresses. I didn't care about being outdressed. Instead, all I wanted was to fulfill the aesthetic in my head that I had for the wedding, which included everyone else looking nothing less than extravagant. And no, before people ask, I don't regret my decision. It was really special to see my mum, aunts and bridesmaids all in their own dresses on my big day. It kind of felt like they were passing the torch onto me, and I really enjoyed the experience. Now, onto my husband's friend. My husband has this friend I'll call Kate, 27 female. Kate is my husband's childhood friend and first love. My husband comes from a small town, and the majority of his friends he's known since adolescence. In their senior year of high school, Kate and my husband got engaged, which is kind of normal where they're from, but called off the wedding and never went through with it. It was mutual. They felt like they were growing up too fast and wanted to slow down. The calling off the wedding was the end of the relationship, but they stayed friends. I knew this information prior to getting with my husband and never had a problem or just felt jealous because I'm friends with a few exes myself. In fact, 2 of them were invited to our wedding. One was my bridesmaid, I'm bisexual, and the other was invited as a guest along with his current girlfriend. I've never had a problem with Kate being my husband's ex, but I have had a problem with Kate as a person, as she's kind of bitchy and gossips like she's still in high school. A few examples of this are just a month into our relationship, she confessed to my husband she still had some lingering feelings, to which she responded that they had already tried that and it didn't work. If she brought it up again, he would cut her off out of respect for me. I wasn't that mad at the time because I understood they had a long history and my relationship with him was just starting out, and she owed it to herself to see if there was anything still there before it was too late. However, after she was turned down, her attitude towards me changed to fake nice and started calling me things like cougar or asking me how I expected to make a relationship work as I wanted to be an anesthesiologist, which would require long hours, or telling my husband's whole friend group how she doesn't like my loud personality. And when I confronted her about all of those things, she would say, "Oh, it was just a joke," or "You're so loud I felt like you would just go off." There's more crap, but if I typed it all, it would never get to the point. Kate has her own husband, I'll call Gerald. Kate and Gerald both make average in terms of finances as they're both teachers. Kate kindergarten and Gerald seniors. They got married last year. On a teacher's salary, Kate wasn't able to afford the most luxurious wedding out there, but I always had the impression she was happy with it. Kate does have another wedding dress from when she was going to marry my husband that her dad has paid for, who has unfortunately passed now, which in terms of fanciness is a bit nicer, but obviously she didn't wear that dress to her own wedding. I was expecting Kate to wear the wedding dress she wore to her own wedding to our wedding, but when I looked and saw her, she had the wedding dress she was supposed to wear when she was getting married to my husband. When I saw her, I immediately went, WTF, but decided to just drop it because I didn't want a conflict on our wedding day. My husband, however, was also confused on why she wore that one and asked her about it without me even having to tell him I was uncomfortable. She responded, "Well, your wife wanted such a big princess wedding. I thought I'd wear this one because it follows the theme more. Don't tell me she's upset about it. She's the one who said, 'Come in your nicest clothes,' and this is my nicest dress." I feel like I'm not allowed to be upset even though I am, and I know this is my fault, but the whole thing has really left a bad taste in my mouth. I would have never been okay with her wearing that one if I'd known she was going to, and I feel like she should have asked. I keep telling myself it's not that big of a deal, and during the daytime when I'm distracted, I don't even think about it. But I've always been a night owl, and it makes me crappy every time I think about it before I fall asleep. So now I'm here complaining on Reddit like a loser. I feel pathetic. Alright, let's jump straight into some comments. OP, Kate had to sit in the wedding dress she was supposed to marry your husband in and watch him marry you instead. Someone took an L here, and I don't think it was you. And geez, Kate's husband had to see Kate wear that wedding dress too, knowing it wasn't the one he saw her wear walking down the aisle. By not making a fuss about it, you probably got on Kate's nerves even more. She was wanting you to throw a fit, and your grace was a dish best served ice cold for her. Many are saying to take action against her, but you've been classy. Remain classy. Ignore her. If you confront her, she'll be making up some tall tales. If she confronts you to dig in, start recording on your phone and keep it in case you need to use it to refute any lies she spews. However, I would let your husband know and ask to keep the conversation confidential between you two, that it hurt you, and a slap at him for rubbing the dress in during your sacred ceremony. It was a low-class move. It was at you and your husband's expense. Not only did it disrespect both of you, but it was one big-ass insult to her husband. She has, most likely, mentioned she wore that dress to the wedding. All of your friends, if they are true friends, already think it was a weirdly insulting move on her part. Wow, that is amazing. She found exactly the weak spot to stick the knife in and give it a good twist. She saved the wedding dress all those years just so she could bring it out at the perfect moment. True artistry there. I'm not good at relationships, so I might be really misinterpreting things. I really think anybody who reads your post has got to come to the conclusion that she was purposefully malicious and had been purposefully malicious for a long time. Of course, you're not at fault for not telling her not to wear that dress. She did it on purpose. If you truly don't trust your own instincts, hey, I myself have rotten instincts, then maybe you could check with your husband. Oh look, your husband too had an instinctive knee-jerk reaction of shock. Or maybe you could try writing out your past history with her in chronological form to see whether malice or mistake seems like the more likely driver of her actions. And, oh look, here is your last history with her conveniently assembled in this very post, and just dripping with malice. You're not wrong when you say it's my fault, but it's not your wedding idea that was at fault. It was a lovely idea which came off splendidly, and you were rightly delighted with it. You are not at fault for making a big deal of somebody being deliberately malicious to you. Should you have taken the high road and ignored it? Well, basically that's what you'd been doing for some time, which allowed the little spite artist the chance to keep on varying her attacks until she finally found one that hit home. No, your fault is that you were generous and let someone with a history of malice towards you come to your wedding and gave her an opportunity to hurt you because you wanted your husband to have all his friends with him on his important day. There are really worse faults to have. The problem is, what are you going to do in the future? She has escalated her attacks on you. There is no reason to think she won't continue to do so, dripping poison in everyone's ears, refining the attacks until she chances upon the one that works. You know, the one where the entire friendship group turns on you, the one where your husband doubts you. The event at the wedding is a gift to you. It shows absolutely that your policy to just be polite until she runs out of steam is not correct. Now you know. You have to take action. Have you never read Othello? Okay, now on to the update. Hello guys, here's the update. So I talked to my husband about it this morning, and when I brought it up, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. He said, I didn't know how to bring it up because you didn't seem bothered, but when I saw her in that dress, I thought it was very weird she wore that one. He went on to say that he even considered asking her to leave because he thought it was rude, but because I had no reaction to the dress, he thought I either didn't care or didn't recognise it, but either way, if I wasn't bothered, he didn't want to disturb my peace of mind by kicking her out. We discussed, and he's going to have a talk with her, not just about the dress, but her treatment of me in general, and explain that going forward she will not be a friend in our lives. After this talk, I've decided to let it go and focus on my new marriage. This was a small thing, and now after I've talked it out with my husband, I feel kind of silly I let it bother me this much. I'm at peace she will no longer be in our lives, and that's enough for me. Someone said you gave her the chance to wear the dress her dad got her and gave her a gift. That was kind of a moment for me because no matter what her intentions were, that is true, and I'm glad she got to have that moment. End of update. The rest of this is just answering questions and explaining what the wedding looked like. A common asked question is how do we even know what the dress looked like? I said it a few times in the comments, but I've seen it a couple times before in her closet. Usually when my husband's friend group hangs out, the guys all get ready at one of their places, and the girls get ready at one of our places. Then we all meet up to wherever we're going, whether that's a pub crawl or a concert or a music festival, etc. Kate hosts pretty regularly, and it's during those times I've seen it in her closet while she looks for something to wear. And when she got married to Gerald, she put her other wedding dress right next to the high school one. As for my husband, I asked him about that today, and he said when they broke up, Kate asked if he wanted to see the dress since there was no point in hiding it anymore, and he said yes. And then when they told their friends the news, their friends also wanted to see the dress, so she put it on for them too. On to pictures. I'm not going to post any, but I'll explain how it looked for those of you who wanted to know. So firstly, lots of people showed up in wedding dresses, and that was absolutely beautiful. One thing my friends from college did was do a 50s Marilyn Monroe type glam, and it was killer. One of the staff was able to find a red carpet, and we took a bunch of black and white photos of them. I had about 5 girls wear their quince dresses, which was gorgeous. Finally, some parents dressed their little girls up in actual princess costumes, which I thought was really cute. The guys also dressed really well too. One guy did a sequin tux, quite a few went for the rock star type suit. My husband's best man went for this really gorgeous red velvet tux. And my dress was this really shimmery, really poofy ball gown type dress with a flower design on the veil that I got custom made for me, and then I had it designed where I could actually unattach the poofy part of the dress for the reception, and then by doing that, it turned into this long sleek white shimmery dress with a leg slit. So there you have it guys, that's the end of that story. Quite a mature resolve, if I don't say so myself. You don't see that too much on Reddit these days. But it seems like there's plenty of understanding between these people. Personally, I'd do the same though if that woman ever did that in my wedding. Let me know what you folks think. Would you have done the same thing? Kicked her out? Or let her stay? Also, that wedding sounded amazing. What a great idea. Alrighty, let's move on to the next story. This one's from the True Off My Chest subreddit. It was posted by user OpenRich1312, and it's titled, Pregnant Wife Confessed to Cheating, but Refuses Prenatal Paternity Test. Might get blasted for mistreating a pregnant woman, but it doesn't really matter at this point. I'm mainly just using this to crystallise my emotions in writing and vent. My 27 male, wife 26 female, is around 2 months pregnant. At first I was overjoyed when I found out, but 10 days ago she admitted to having unprotected sex with a colleague at around the time she got pregnant. This has been the longest 10 days of my life. I'm humiliated by the betrayal. I've decided to stay in the marriage if I'm the father of the child, but emotionally there's no way that I can take the stress of it possibly not being mine for 7 more months. The anxiety has been eating me alive day and night for the past week, so I told her today to do a prenatal paternity test so we can know for sure whose child it is by the end of the week. She refused and said that she would be way too stressed if we did that, and that the stress hormones coursing through her body wouldn't be good for the baby. I pointed out how short-sighted this is, since I would do the paternity test eventually anyway, and it would just shorten the stress for both of us if we found out who the father is by this weekend. I also said that even if we decided to get divorced right now, we would still be married by the time the child is born, so I would be the legal father by default if that is what she wanted. She still refused and said there's no way she's doing a prenatal paternity test. I was pretty infuriated by this point, so I ended the conversation by saying that if she doesn't get the test, I would refuse to stay at the hospital when she is in labour, refuse to sign any paperwork acknowledging me as the father, get a paternity test, and legally challenge my paternity as soon as I found out the child isn't mine. If she continues to refuse the paternity test, I'm considering divorcing her even if the child is mine. I've lost most of my feelings for her after hearing about the cheating. If the child is mine, I should be eligible for joint 50-50 custody, even though it will be a very young child. My wife and I also make about the same amount of money, so I shouldn't even be paying her any alimony or child support either, especially if we get 50-50 custody, so I should be in the clear legally. But there's still no way I can take this for 7 more months. I don't know what I'll do. Uh-oh, this is a tricky one. Let's jump into the comments. Dude, get out ASAP. There's no coming back from this, no matter the result of any test. So many red flags, it's a wonder Air China isn't landing in your backyard. Get out, get the test later, if needed through court. Get a lawyer and serve her with divorce papers now. She has zero respect for you because if she did, she would put your mind at ease. There's no way that she isn't stressed right now, and will be the entire pregnancy if she doesn't know who the father is either. The reason she doesn't want to is because she thinks it's the other guys and is trying to trick you. If she had even a little remorse or respect for you, she would have offered to do the test, or at very least agreed with no argument. The kid isn't yours, and she is probably hyper aware of that. The fact that she is so hell-bent on not taking the test seems like she knows you're not the father. Lawyer, like everyone else said. Now for an update to this story. I never found out whether I was the father or not. She miscarried not long after I made the post, and a test was never done. Or honestly, she may have just aborted it. I hope that the child, whether mine or not, is at peace now, but quite frankly, I would rather just not think more about this whole situation anymore. I just want to move on with my life at this point. The divorce was pretty swift and straightforward. We make similar incomes, so there wasn't really much to contest. I let her keep the house and she paid me half of the equity. It was a pretty silent and emotionless split. I just wanted to go my own separate way in life, and maybe she felt the same way. As an aside, I want to address the comments in the old post claiming that a prenatal paternity test would cause a miscarriage. I asked her for a non-invasive prenatal paternity test that would not have caused any harm to the mother or the child. It would have just been a simple blood draw from the pregnant mother and a cheek swab from the suspected father. Things have been rough, but I'm looking forward to the future. I've been working out and sauna bathing regularly, which has improved my mood quite a bit. I might go back to school for a master's degree. Really increases income potential in my line of work. Thanks for the well wishes, strangers. Your kind words provided me with a lot of hope at a dark time. Gee, that's a bit of a relief. It's a shame about the miscarriage or the abortion, whatever it is, but I'm glad OP was able to escape out of that pretty easily, all things considered. But yeah, I don't really understand the thought process of the wife for not letting him get a prenatal paternity test. It just seems really counterproductive to delay that as much as you can, both on the relationship and on the pregnancy. Either way, let me know what you guys reckon about this one in the comments, and then we'll move on to our next story. Okay, so our next one is from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by Am I the A-hole Towels, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole telling my wife I can't trust her after she didn't text me about towels. My wife and I are in our 30s. I had a stroke last year, which was stressful, but I'm doing well. I had aphasia as a side effect. I pass as normal to most people. Since the stroke, our communication is worse. Sometimes when I talk to her, she says I'm mean, and she cries and I have no idea why. I don't know if I'm misspeaking, or she's sensitive, or if I say something and that's actually mean. This didn't happen much before the stroke, but it happens a lot now. I try to be nice when we talk. Today I took my kids to swim class. I got there and realised I'd forgotten towels. I texted my wife and she offered to go home and get towels and bring them to me. I replied thanking her. I got the kids in the pool and called her. She was still at work and said her car was blocked in and she was finding the person who blocked her in. Her co-workers were getting her towels and she would come to the pool when she could. I didn't hear from her for 15 minutes. I considered asking the front desk for towels or sun-drying the kids, but I was just stuck because I didn't know if my wife was coming. I know some people would handle the uncertainty better, but it stressed me out. She showed up with the towels. We talked and she left. I didn't say much because I was feeling upset, and I'm very careful if I'm upset and talking to my wife. When she got home, she offered to finish dinner and put down the kids, since she knew I'd been with them all afternoon. I said sure, since I still had some work left. I asked if it was okay to talk, and she said okay. I told her I feel like I can't trust her when I ask her to do something, because she won't update me if there are unforeseen circumstances. I was careful to say I wasn't criticising her, just sharing how I felt. I could tell she was upset. I asked her if she understood me, and she repeated it back to me. It sounded like she understood. I asked her if I said something mean. She said that she didn't blame me, but that it hurt her feelings that I would complain to her without thanking her, or thinking about how hard she worked to get me the towels. I told her that I did thank her. I immediately texted thank you when she said she would come. She also said something sarcastic like, "And you're welcome for coming home and offering to take the kids." What does my gratitude have to do with not trusting her? I appreciate everything she does for me. The offer to do my chores is very nice, but I guess it came with strings. If she does that for me, then I can only feel gratitude. So I told her not to bother. I also said something like, "Don't do me any favours," which I guess is not the nicest choice of words. I think she's the a-hole because she is self-absorbed and can't be there for me when I have negative emotions. I think I might be the a-hole because she's upset, and I know she tries to give me the benefit of the doubt, and if so, I'm hoping Reddit can explain it to me. Oh gee, that's complicated. I mean, your wife kind of dropped everything from work to help bring you the towels that you forgot. Like, to be honest, I don't think you can chastise her in any kind of way about that, even if she didn't communicate with you for like 10 or 15 minutes, whatever it was. It's almost like you seem entitled to her help. So, to be honest, I'm going to go with you're the a-hole, OP. My mother hates me for telling my sister the truth. I want to preface this with an apology if it's all over the place. There's so much information to sort through and decide what does or doesn't have a place here. I will reply to what I can and make edits for any common questions and remarks. So a little bit, or a lot, of background is required for this to make any sense. Many years ago, my mother had an affair that completely blew up our family. I suppose the affair was the lesser issue, but rather all her other actions that screwed many of us over. For context, I was 10, my younger sister was 7 or 8, and my older sister almost 14, all female. To start with, in the years prior, my mother had taken out tens of thousands of dollars in loans and credit cards in my dad's name, of which he was never aware of. Ignorant, absolutely, but she had always managed all finances while a stay-at-home mum. She also managed to make 5 years of GST payments disappear from the business account, for which Dad was then charged with 2 charges, around $100,000 in fines, of tax evasion, on top of the missed payments. All 3 of us kids had a bank account set up from young, which our dad had added to so that we would be in a positive position when we were older, for university or a house deposit, whatever it was that we desired. Being savings orientated even as a kid, I had chosen to put 100% of any money earned through chores or gifted for birthdays into the account. At 14, when I began working and gained access to net banking, I realised Mum had drained my account. Less than $50, only my account. If that wasn't enough, Her own mother had stored a sum of money in my parents' safe that was intended for her funeral. My mother took every last dollar and refused to pay it back. My dad paid it back with interest when he found out. Due to the tricky financial situation, Dad had to travel for work, wherever the trade was needed in that moment. Typically he would leave in the early hours of Monday morning and return on Saturday afternoon. In this time, my mother felt it appropriate to leave us at home so that she could visit the affair partner, usually not coming home for days at a time. Nobody knew. We had no carers or access to resources, as we lived a 20-minute drive to the nearest town and stores. This went on for a few weeks before my mum, sometimes, contacted our cousin to come stay with us while she was out. To this day, I believe that only happened because the other guy figured out what was going on. Due to the timing of people coming and going, our dad didn't know any of this happening until 2 months later. I kept it quiet because I knew he couldn't afford to stay home. All this said, I stepped into the parent role. My little sister was kept in the dark as much as possible. I did my best to maintain her same routine so that she felt as little impact as possible. Obviously she suffered, to the point of requesting to sleep in my bed every night for a year, but it seems that she doesn't remember any of the crappy things that happened back then. My older sister was very mentally ill, where I had to medicate her each morning and conduct daily body and room checks. Those who know will get what I'm suggesting. To the best of my knowledge, our little sister never saw any of this. I didn't and don't believe those are subject to such little eyes should have to witness. The older sister was also really ashamed and had asked to keep this situation away from the youngest, as she had a habit of speaking without realizing or knowing the potential damage. As much as I hated the responsibility, cooking, cleaning, hiding the family's dirty laundry, I was also very aware that what was happening wasn't okay, that if I couldn't keep it together and matters hidden, that authorities would become involved. Those times were scary, but the idea of not having access to and control over what happened to me or my siblings felt like it would be worse. These are only the first things that come to mind, but the details aren't exactly the point of this post. Anyway, I guess my younger sister's soon-to-be in-laws have asked some questions, of which my sister doesn't have the ability to answer. I would suggest she ask our mother first, but the queries would have been shut down. I know she feels guilty, knows that she screwed up, and frankly I hope she never forgives herself for it. So the little sister came to me, and for the first time in 15 years, I was willing to give her the answers she was looking for. I've always been vague, not wanting to cause her pain, but I've started feeling guilty in recent years for not treating her as enough of an adult to make her own decisions. After a lot of therapy, I have realized that I don't have to be their parent anymore. My sister cried, I cried, and she apologized for the assumption made and words said because she didn't know any better in the past. She needs and wants time to process a whole lot of information that's entirely new to her, that has quite literally flipped the way she has perceived many people over the years. Anywho, she isn't speaking to our mother right now, and that's where it becomes my problem, I guess. She called me, blowing up, claiming I've ruined her relationship with her daughter, that I'm out to get her, resentful without cause, and need to stop living in the past. But I don't see how me being honest about her actions is my fault. Could I have filtered the details? Maybe. But I don't understand why I should have to hold under the pressure of keeping her shortcomings secret. Maybe it's time to grow up and pay for the consequences of your actions. Opie then discusses more in the comments. She's never taken any responsibility, only made excuses. My favourite was the one for her leaving us to care for ourselves. Quote, "You all made it clear you didn't want to spend time with me." End quote. I feel like she thought she'd gotten away with it at this point, and that's why she's mad. To be honest, I only told my sister for selfish reasons. We've only in recent years developed a close relationship, and I didn't want to lose that if she became mad at me for not telling her anything. I know there was always a layer of resentment towards me for thinking I was the boss of her. She needed somebody to be mad at, and at the time I was okay with that person being me. A comment says, "Children and young adults, get mad at the people it is safe to be mad at. It sounds like you took that anger to give her a safe space and a safe person. Now that she's of an age where she's old enough to hear the truth, where it's safe for her to be angry at your mum, without risking breaking your family apart, you've given her the truth. That's quite heroic. I hope you find the peace and space to have a life of your own, free from your mother's negligent abuse. You've certainly more than earned it. Opie replies, I've never considered the aspect of somebody needing to be safe to be mad at them. That puts a lot into perspective. Thank you. To be honest, my mother has no influence over my life or feelings. I stopped regarding her as a parental figure long ago, so her opinion of me, someone she really had no part in moulding, means nothing. Don't get me wrong, I do not place the blame for all the wrongdoings exclusively on her, but she was certainly the catalyst for most of the difficult seasons. Every action or inaction I've ever made has been a decision to protect the other people she hurt, which only served to protect her from backlash, and I think it's time she faced up. In some ways, I think caring for them was all that kept me sane. I was so busy and exhausted by the day-to-day motions that I didn't have time to reflect on my own feelings or the situation as a whole. Full survival mode, I suppose. I appreciate that a lot. I tried my best, in hindsight doing for them what I probably needed myself. She was cut out for a very long time. The stolen money from myself was the absolute last straw, which resulted in me going no contact for about 5 years. Part of me thinks she was glad for that too, because I'd threatened to press charges against the mystery thief if she didn't fess up. But because of my sister's age, and her eventually choosing to live with Mum, I felt compelled to be civil because I missed my sister. I live 4 hours from my hometown now, so maintaining a healthy distance is really quite easy. One comment asks, curious about your dad, how is he doing right now? After knowing the truth, did your younger sister go living with your dad? And did he divorce your mother? And all that money she stole, what was she doing with that money? Did you get any of it back? Opie replies, he's doing really good, but of course he had a long time to pick up the pieces. In his 50s and still working 6 days a week, not because he needs to, but because he's never known anything else. His parents were immigrants, so it was quite literally bred into him. She's 22 now and living with her partner. She and Dad never had a strained relationship, but after years of living exclusively with him, decided to spend the next few years with Mum. Never any bad blood on either end where she's concerned. They did divorce long ago, and as much as I find it strange, they still have a relatively positive relationship. The money? Literally who knows. Never saw a cent returned though. Dad didn't know she stole from me until 6-ish years ago. Early on he was struggling, and I knew he'd try to put the money back if I told him. He knew something had happened for me not to talk to my mother all those years, but I hadn't told him, and she sure wasn't going to. Recently my husband and I built our first home, and he was insistent on cutting trade swaps to save money, which I strongly feel was his way of repaying her debt to me. He's a great dad. Has his flaws, as every human does, but every step he's taken has been with the intention of his kids not having to want for things as he and his siblings did. I only tolerated her in the past to keep my sister close. I don't trust our mother to not hurt her in the process of getting what she wants. The partner's family aren't stupid, and while they will hand out finance, they will never relinquish control of it. If they suspect somebody of having ill intent, they're cut out of all their lives. Mum's husband does pretty well for himself and pays all their living expenses, but knowing her past will not give her unbridled access, so she has to work to support her spending habit, which is probably where the jealousy comes in. I used to tell my sister that I don't really know, can't remember, or have only heard snippets of the story, so not necessarily a lie, but definitely deceit by omission. Okay, now on to the updates. First update. And now she's resorted to posting on Facebook, claiming that one of her ingrates are spreading rumours to ruin her. Jesus effing Christ. I don't even have Facebook, so not really sure what she's trying to achieve in doing this, but an old family friend called my dad to ask what's going on. Also, I'm speaking to nobody about the situation. I don't even live in our hometown. If nothing else, she has nothing for me to ruin. No way I'm engaging or sinking to her level, but seriously, what a waste of a person. Now the parents are fighting, she's fighting with her current husband, and crap is all around just getting messy. She thinks she's making people feel sorry for her, but mostly she just looks pathetic, if you ask me. Update 2. Turns out I really don't need to sink to her level. That's been taken care of while I sleep. I guess Mum's privacy settings aren't great, and that's working against her. The vague "woe is me" post has been shared by 3 family members and friends with a single, but far less cryptic one-liner. I'm told, "Oh, you mean the ingrate that raised your kids? Should she be more grateful for your affair or the complete and utter abandonment of your 3 kids?" And my absolute favourite from my granny, "Rot in hell, you lying, thieving bee." Oh gee, a bit of family drama to kick off our day? What did you think about that one, guys? To be honest, yeah, the mum sounds like a real piece of work. I'm glad that they've cut her out of their lives. And a good ending there too, the family kind of turning against her when she thought they wouldn't. That's karma for you. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Our next story was written by a throwaway account, ThrowRAStuck, and it's titled, "I am considering ending my relationship with my partner due to her $250,000 debt. I am a 30-year-old male. I have a well-paying job, roughly $100K per year, no debt. My girlfriend has $250K in private student loans from undergrad private school with a variable interest rate. Recently the interest hit over 11%, and doing the math on the loans has me devastated. With how fast it is growing, she'll need to put $25K a year into it just to keep it in the same place. That basically guarantees that I will never have financial help during our relationship. Additionally, with how much she'll need to work just to pay on the loans, I won't have much help around the house or with our kids, if and when we have some, either. I keep blaming myself that I can't just deal with it. It's just money, right? But at the same time, when I look at the reality of the situation, I can't help but feel I need to walk away from this situation. Additionally, she's going back to school in the fall for a higher paying job, probably 60 to 85K income at the end, realistically with a possibility of 125K a year if she works herself to death. But this program will add another 30K in federal loans. I think this is a bad decision, but it's also the only option she seems to have to up her income. I feel like I don't want to wait until I'm 45 when this debt might be paid off to have children. I don't want to put my life on hold in this way, but I also love her a lot. We've talked a lot about this and about her plan to pay it down, etc. It now feels like my options are either accept that this is reality and it will be many years before she's free of this debt, or end the relationship. Any advice? Editing for context. Private loans aren't eligible for PSLF as far as I know. That's a federal program. Student loans aren't eligible for bankruptcy. She currently lives with family. She has a job, but it doesn't earn much over 30K a year. She will start the program in the fall, which will mean school for 1.5 years, and then earning the potential of 65 to 150K, more if she works like mad. The loan was originally around 180K, undergrad at a private fancy school, but has grown due to the interest. Her mum co-signed on a few of the loans from what I understand, but has the mindset that her investments make more than paying into her daughter's loans. We've been together for 2 years. Yes, I have talked to her at length about this situation. Lastly, thank you for those of you that said I'm not a bad person for thinking about this and that my feelings are valid. It means a lot to me. I'm going to sit with this for a while and make a decision within the next week or so. Okay, now let's look at some relevant comments. Electric Apogee says, quote, "It's just money, right?" No, it is the rest of your life and your own goals. It is fair to worry about it. This is the rest of your life you're talking about here. Quote, "It now feels like my options are either accept that this is reality and it will be many years before she's free of this debt, or end the relationship." Yep, those are your options. Opie replies, "I appreciate you reframing that for me. I keep saying to myself it shouldn't be about money, but I guess ultimately it isn't. It's about the goals I have for my life." Unique username A2D says, "You have to pay the price of a house just to marry this woman? Damn. Key piece that's missing is how long you've been together and why you are thinking about this now." OP replies, "We just hit 2 years. I started considering marriage and our future, and I asked for more in-depth detail about her loans and her plan to pay them off. I knew it was a large amount, but I did not know it was all private, variable, and as large as it is." God, this is a complicated one. What do you guys think? Should he stay or leave? Let's go to the update and find out. Wanted to give an update. After reading all your comments and picking up a book about decision making in regards to money and love, will share if interested, I have come to the decision that I do, sadly, need to end the relationship. She is a wonderful girl and honestly my best friend, but the reality of her choices financially will alter the course of my life in such a profound way that all I can see is resentment in the end. I have to stop guilting myself into sacrificing myself for others to the point of my own mental turmoil. I grew up in a foster to adopt family as the oldest, and I think I learned then to forget myself and care for others to earn love. Part of this decision is learning how to remember myself again. Thank you all for the advice. It really helped me see that either choice is okay to make, and I'm not a failure for saying it's too much for me. Oh man, kind of a sad ending with that one, guys. What did you think? Honestly, I can totally understand having to walk away from, something like that that's dragging you down so much. But I guess that kind of just puts in perspective, like, if you love someone enough, I don't think money should matter, really, no matter how bad it is. So maybe it's best that he doesn't kind of continue this relationship, get married, have kids and all that, because I don't think his love was strong enough in the first place if he's willing to end the relationship over such a thing. I don't know, maybe I don't fully understand the weight of the American kind of university system and just how much money this is. Like, honestly, I feel sorry for you guys over there and just how hard it is to pay off a debt like this when the interest is so high. Honestly, at this point, I kind of just feel bad for the girl now. Like, is she ever going to be able to pay this off? And now her partner has left her because of it? I mean, the weight of that debt would be enough to make anyone depressed. But yeah, regarding OP, like, it's the rest of his life that will be affected by this choice. And I guess it's just whether or not he sees himself with this woman, in 20, 30 years, or whether he's okay with letting it go, and it seems like he's okay. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you were in his shoes, would you have left or would you have stayed? Let me know. Okay, our next story is from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by Am I the Ass, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for lighting a match at night and scaring my boyfriend's dad so badly he woke up the whole house? My boyfriend and I are staying at his parents' house. It's been going really well, but his dad is very particular. He has moments every day where he corrects or instructs the other people in the house on how he wants us to behave. I don't really have a problem with it, but he has a few rules that do make me a little uncomfortable. I don't need to get into why, but I always get diarrhea here. I've been visiting them a few times a year for almost a decade, and it just is what it is. My boyfriend and I used to stay in a room downstairs with a bathroom, and it wasn't a problem. But his brother moved back home, and now we don't have our own bathroom. I don't want to advertise the fact that I have diarrhea to everyone in the house, and I'm not allowed to use the bathroom fan at night, so I usually poo pourri or just a drop. When we got home the last time, my boyfriend got a text from his dad asking him to ask me to stop using strong essential oils as it was making him feel sick. I was so embarrassed, and I honestly have been kind of dreading coming here again. I was talking to my mum about this, and she suggested that I bring some paper matches because that's what she used to do. I got some paper matches, and they actually worked pretty well. Tonight I woke up from my sleep because I had diarrhea. I lit a match when I was done, ran it under water and folded it up into some aluminium before throwing it in the garbage. I fell back asleep and was woken up a while later by a big commotion. My boyfriend's dad smelled burning and thought the house was on fire, so he woke everyone up in a panic and searched the house to see what was burning. I didn't immediately equate a match with a house fire, and I didn't smell anything when I woke up, so I didn't bring up that I'd lit a match. It wasn't even clicking for me that the match was what he smelled, until my boyfriend asked me if I smelled anything when I got up earlier to use the bathroom. Long story short, I just got chewed out by his dad for lighting matches at night, or lighting matches in general as a guest in their home, and even his mum was upset because I could have started a fire and nobody would know. I apologised and everyone went back to bed, but then my boyfriend lectured me for like 15 minutes about embarrassing him and playing dumb, and about not knowing what his dad smelled and not using common sense. And then he told me to go to sleep and try not to wake everyone up again. I'm honestly so ticked. My boyfriend is sleeping soundly and I'm just laying here getting madder and madder. I want to wake him up so we can leave because I feel so uncomfortable. I really don't want to face everyone in the morning. I don't feel like I did anything wrong, but I don't know if I'm thinking rationally because I'm tired and I can't fall back asleep. What do you think? Am I the jerk? Jesus Christ, these people seem so uptight. Like, have they never heard of lighting a match after you go to the toilet? Like, seriously, who cares? Like, I get it's their house and, if you smell burning, you're going to panic a bit. But once you know the source of the smell, it's completely understandable. Like, surely at that point you just let it go, right? No need for lectures. These are the same sort of people that freak out whenever there's a candle or something and get real paranoid about it. Either way, not the a-hole from me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Am I the a-hole for calling the on-call vet, and would I be the a-hole if I posted a scathing review after our exchange? I, 42 female, need some perspective here because I'm running on very little sleep, and my 12-year-old dog has had liquid diarrhea leaking from his butt for 3 days now. It's getting everywhere. I can't sleep on my bed. He'll want to hop up with me, so I've been on the floor to help him through the nights. I could crate him, but he has severe anxiety, and I kind of figured he's already having a rough enough time as it is, without adding more stress. While he's in good health, he's still elderly. There's a lot more. I'll just sum it all up with it's been a whole mess, and I'm wondering if my anger is justified, or if I'm lashing out at this woman because I'm so stressed. On that note, sorry if this is poorly written or redundant. So, I took my dog to the vet on Monday, and they gave him some anti-diarrhea medicine and Fortiflora. The stool sample they took indicated it was probably just his system out of whack, but he just keeps getting worse. The vet told me to give his system time to adjust and correct itself with the meds, which absolutely makes sense, so I waited. Last night, blood appeared in his stool. This, combined with the fact he's only gotten worse while on treatment, made me worried enough that I decided to call the on-call vet at 12 a.m. to ask for guidance. Basically, I wanted to know if I should be concerned enough to drive the 2 hours to our nearest 24-hour vet, who weren't picking up their phone. That's where the on-call vet thinks I'm the jerk. She basically laid into me for calling her about mere diarrhea. She really wanted me to know I was wasting her time because she couldn't run tests at 12 a.m. Basically, she told me to F off if my dog isn't dying. And I'm just like, lady, I don't know if he's dying. That's why I called. My perspective is that I wasn't calling about mere diarrhea. I was calling about rapidly worsening diarrhea that now contained blood. I didn't want to be overly reactive and spend thousands on emergency medical treatment that could have waited until the morning. Nor did I want to drive 2 hours on 1 hour of sleep. But I also wanted to do what was best for my dog. I felt like I needed expert advice to make the best decision. The conversation I wanted to have would have taken 2 minutes of her time. She kept me on the phone for around 7 minutes yelling at me. I'll confess, I snapped and yelled back. I mean, I'm not sure what her purpose is if it's not to give emergency medical advice, and I told her as much. Maybe I did call her for no reason and waste her time. I mean, I'm not thinking super clearly right now, to be honest, but I wasn't calling her out of spite. I felt like I had a solid justification for being worried. So, am I the a-hole for calling her? And would I be the a-hole if I wrote up a bad review because of our exchange? Edits. I never asked for a diagnosis over the phone, nor did I ask for treatment. I asked if I should take my dog to the 24-hour clinic for treatment and more tests. It's a 2-hour drive from my house, and I was more than willing to make the trip and pay the cost of medical treatment if necessary. The only question I asked the on-call was whether or not I should make this drive, which isn't a question where one answer or another would be better than the other. I mean, I ended up stressing and tired either way. I followed up with the vet during regular hours twice, once on my own and the vet called me the second time. What prompted the midnight call was the fact that my dog's condition worsened during off hours. Alright guys, what do you think about this one? Opie seems like a person that kind of stresses easily, so I don't blame her for making the call. And she's definitely not the a-hole for asking the question. But I can also imagine the vet's frustration about waking up in the middle of the night. But that still doesn't justify how she reacted to the phone call. Anyway, I'm going to go with not the a-hole. What do you guys think? Alright, let's jump to the update. A lot of you asked about my pup's health, and I figured it might be easiest to do an update than answer individually. Those of you who asked me to give him ear, butt or head scratches should know that he got those in full. He didn't know what I was talking about when I said, X from Reddit says you're a good boy, but he loved the attention just the same. Thank you all for your kind words, I truly appreciated the support. My dog had parasites that they didn't find in the first stool sample. He's on new medication and his condition seems to be improving. His poop isn't totally normal yet, but it's getting firmer and I think he's going to be fine. He's at least sleeping through the night and looks more alert when awake. He even tried to play this morning. I spoke with my normal vet before leaving a review. She told me that the on-call vet I spoke with is a known problem, but asked me to let them deal with the issue internally, and that leaving a negative review would just hurt the clinic. Obviously, they couldn't give me any specific details, but it sounded like the on-call vet might already be on her way out the door. To that, I say good riddance. She was awful to deal with. In general, I'd like to add that any vets or vet techs who feel it's necessary to berate, belittle, or shove their personal issues onto others should probably seek positive ways to channel their frustrations. Random people don't want to be your whipping boy or girl for all your worldly grievances. I also asked her if I had misused the on-call service. She said that blood in the stool usually isn't cause for concern. It was probably due to him straining, but that she gets a lot of similar calls when it's her turn to man the phone. She said she expects to deal with these issues because the patient doesn't see the same patterns again and again, day after day, week after week. They see blood in the stool on rare occasions, unless their dog or dogs have chronic health issues, so it seems worse than what it actually is. She indicated blood in the stool calls can get annoying, but that they can also sometimes be real emergencies, and she doesn't expect an average person to know the difference. Yeah, there you go. That kind of explains why the vet kind of got super irritated on the phone. But also a good explanation as to why they should be ready to deal with those kinds of conversations. It's clear that the on-call vet was pretty bad at her job, and it's kind of good to hear that she's on the way out. Allegedly, at least. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one, and then we'll jump to our next story. Okay, our next one was written by user WideChallenge4874, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for not doing my share of volunteering? My sister has 3 kids. She planned on 2, but has 3. They're all under 6, and she's not managed to get back to her career in the way she planned to. It stresses her out, so I offered to take the kids for part of the weekend so she can do homework for a course she's doing to hopefully further her career without getting overly penalised for having a longer than anticipated break for kids. During the week she attends while 2 kids are at nursery or school and with 1 strapped to her. She and I are not Christians though. Our cousin, who she gets childcare advice from, is. Since the kids were little, she has done things to get points towards having them attend local Church of England schools, primary and secondary is the plan. She and her husband attend church on special days. She runs the database and online diary, as well as dealing with emails to book out the church hall, and he volunteers as a governor at the primary school. One of the activities the kids do is church-led child club for a couple of hours on Sunday morning. It's run by volunteers, usually mums of the kids, and they're always short of volunteers. Usually it's parents who drop the kids off, and to get extra Christian points for their kids, they will sometimes volunteer for a bit towards this. Usually the Christian ones go and attend the service, while their kids are at the club and the less religious ones volunteer. I usually go home and clean my house for the week, which has been a bit destroyed by general living, and then having 3 under 6-year-olds the previous day, before picking them up. Lately, I've been getting passive-aggressive comments when I drop the kids off because I don't stay and volunteer to help with the activity club. My sister says that some of the mums at the school gate have been saying she won't get enough points because I don't volunteer, and she's stressed about this. I don't want to jeopardise my nibbling schooling, but I can't see that an aunt would be counted towards school points. I also really don't want to help out with the church activity group. For one thing, it's really loud. There's about 40 kids and I'm not really a child person. For another, I'm not a Christian, and I'd feel uncomfortable doing some of the activities which are supposed to be about belief. Am I being a jerk about this? Edit. This is in the UK. It's not a fee-paying school. Yeah, it seems weird that an auntie's actions would count towards points towards the school. But even if that is the case, I'm going to say not the a-hole. It's called volunteer for a reason, like you're not obligated to do it. Anyway, let's have a look at the comments. Opie elaborates a bit more about the situation. It's apparently a really good school. I think it's got top Ofsted scores and does a woodland curriculum, which is something my cousin and sister are really into. It's pretty common to have a points-based system to get into Church of England schools. I don't think they're officially called Christian points, it's just what my sister and I call them. I thought that her volunteering with the church hall staff got her points, but now I'm worried that it doesn't count enough. Someone asks the question if they could be confused and think she is the mum. Opie replies, "Oh no, we're not, but we do look really similar, and right now we do look quite alike because we've got the same hairstyle. That hadn't occurred to me." Someone says, "Maybe an idea to refer to yourself as the babysitter or something similar in their presence, just to establish a distinction between you and the other parents in terms of obligation and perceived obligation." OP says, "Yeah, we're going to emphasise I'm the aunt a bit more next weekend." More about the sister and brother-in-law volunteering. She does volunteer. She runs the booking system for the church hall, but I'm not clear if that gets enough points or not. Her husband also volunteers and does a lot of paperwork for the school board of governors, which is what he's usually doing on Sunday. He volunteers on the school board of governors. He does a lot of their admin, which is usually what he's doing on Sunday mornings. He works during the week. We're very close as we didn't have amazing parents. I know she really wants to get back to her career. I also can't have my own kids, so I do care about hers. That's why I like to help out, both for her and so I can maintain a good relationship with my nibblings. Someone says, "Is this like Sunday school or like daycare? Because if you're dropping them off to free childcare and going home to clean, yeah, you're the a-hole." OP replies, "I guess it's kind of both. It's 2.5 hours, which is a solid block of time, but the kids get shown to be active with the church by doing it. I don't know how much childcare on a Sunday morning would cost, an unbelievable amount, I guess. If I didn't take them there, I'd probably just take them to the park or something, but my sister wants them to go there." One comment says, "I suspect one of two things are going on here, possibly both. First, as has been suggested elsewhere, they think you are the children's mother. Next time you drop the children off, make an excuse to chat to one of the parents and introduce yourself, clearly, but not too loudly, no need to shout, and firmly, as X and Y's aunt, and you keep crossing paths with this mum and dad, and isn't it time we introduced ourselves? Maybe add in that you really respect their commitment to the church, even if you don't believe in their God in any way. If they have been thinking your mum, this will seriously disabuse them of the notion. Second, it may well be that this pressure is coming from lazy volunteers, and not from either the school or the church. They just want to recruit more suckers to do their work. Check with the school secretary about admissions requirements and ask why as aunt you are being asked to volunteer. That should put the cat among the pigeons." OP replies, "I think these are great suggestions. I've just been on the phone to my sister and she's on her way over with hair dye after they've done bath time. My brother-in-law is braving bedtime alone. We reckon that might emphasise I'm the crazy aunt, not the sensible mum. Also, she's going to look for the handbook this week." Someone says, "I hope you went with a super crazy hair colour like purple or bright green. Make those bossy mums clutch their pearls so tightly the string breaks." OP says, "It's bright pink and we did an undercut. We're aiming for serious pearl clutching next week. We also dyed my sister's now longer hair. She has lovely sensible mumsy highlights and lowlights." Yeah, alright, looks like the comments seem to have gotten to the crux of the problem. And yeah, the general consensus is not the a-hole. Let's go to the update. Whew, a lot happened since I posted. Some misunderstandings. First, some commenters were right about me not describing Christian points, the points to get into primary school, correctly. This is down to a misunderstanding on my part, seemingly shared by the majority of mums at the school gate, by the way, and how primary school places are allocated and how that relates to the secondary school next door. There are multiple points available to determine if you get into the primary. These are based on if you live nearby and if you have a sibling at the school, etc. Only one of these points is about being active in the church community. The Christian parents get this automatically by showing up to church each week, but if you're not a churchy family, or, like my sister and her husband, you're an atheist family, then you get this point by being active in other ways. The usual way to get this point is by volunteering with the Sunday Children's Club. However, my sister and her husband both take on administrative duties to be active within the community, but not pretend to be religious. This has been confirmed to count by the local vicar and relevant teachers and governors. Other parents and guardians also do various other needful things. However, there is a perception that volunteering with the Children's Club is the way to get that point. One source of this misunderstanding is because there are other things you can do to get your kid into the secondary school if they don't go to the primary school. But once again, volunteering at the Children's Club is the default way, presumably because it's a nice, obvious option. What happened? First, I and my sister dyed my hair. I've been pink, purple, blue and green since, because some people pointed out there may be a misunderstanding that I'm the aunt and not the mum. My sister also went for a professional-looking cut and dye. From some of the reactions, this absolutely seems to have been the case for a few of the schoolgate mums, and it did put a stop to the initial, "Why don't you volunteer?" I had one memorable interaction with a mum who was blatantly fishing to see if the reason that I was doing child pickup was because there were problems in my sister's relationship. When she established that this was situation normal, and in fact I'd been doing this for some time and she'd previously interacted with me, almost every Sunday, I then became an object of curiosity and she would point me out as my nibblings aunt. This led to passive-aggressive mutterings to the vicar about non-parents dropping kids off, which eventually got dealt with because several grandparents do drop off and one woman drops off her foster kids. Second, the school admin sent out a letter reminding people of how points to get into the primary school work, and that only the parents and guardians of the children counted towards these points. Things calmed down for a bit. Then everything got a bit ugly. One of the mums, the one who quizzed me about my sister's marriage, has a friend who doesn't want to volunteer at the children's club, so the friend tried to poach my sister's job, dealing with church hall bookings. She didn't go about this very well, and no one has any reason to believe she'd be any better at it than my sister. She doesn't work currently, and as far as I know has only done bar work rather than anything administrative. Well, rather than accept that the vicar and church wardens didn't want her to replace my sister, she started spreading rumours. First, that my brother-in-law was having an affair. Guess who he was supposedly having an affair with? Well, I hung out with my girlfriend in my sister's conservatory for a Saturday, and that rumour went away for a bit. So then the talking point was that I'm gay, which is apparently still exciting for the village. I'm bi actually, but who wants to get into that discussion? Then, I didn't exactly F up, but I wasn't super careful about dating nearby where my sister lives. See, I'm poly. Me and my girlfriend are quiet about it, but I went on a date with a cousin of one of the school mums, and the current rumour is that my sister and I share my brother-in-law. Mostly we're dying laughing, as the vicar and church wardens have made it clear that they're not paying any mind to this, but my sister is having a time of it at the school gate. No one is saying anything directly to her. It's all just mean-spirited stuff whispered behind their hands. We're hoping it dies down soon, but there are a few of the mums who really don't like my sister, seemingly based around the fact she doesn't volunteer for the children's club. My brother-in-law is having a less bad time of it, but he's a bit concerned about whether it's going to affect his position on the Board of Governors. In conclusion, mums at a school gate are really mean, and whoever told me I should watch Motherland was spot on. Also, we solved the initial problem, but now there's a new one. Alrighty, that's the end of that one, guys. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. Seems like a pretty childish community, if you ask me. I was reading it feeling like I was back in high school again. Anyway, let's go to our last story for today. Okay, our next post was written by user AggravatingYam5560, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining my dad's chances of winning my mum back? My, 25 female, parents are getting divorced after 24 years of marriage. My mother was basically cheating on my father for months before he found out. I put cheating in quotation marks because my dad was a horrible husband, so I was actually happy she found someone else. Once my mum said she wanted to separate, my dad completely changed. He said he didn't want her to leave, begging her to stay, saying he will change. He actually got on medication for his depression, started being more affectionate, and asked for couples counselling that he said my mum agreed to do. One day I go to my parents' house and my dad says he wants my help winning my mum back. We are in the backyard and mum is in the house. I told him no because I want what's best for her and he's not it. He said that he has severe depression, and saying that he's bad without acknowledging how depression can affect a person isn't right. He said he was disappointed because if the genders were reversed, I would admonish him for cheating and breaking the vow of marriage. Now this is where I might be the jerk. My dad is doing everything he can to win my mum back, so I said that while I won't help him, I wouldn't interfere in his plans and would stop talking about him with her. Me and my mum talk a lot about how crappy of husband my dad is. At one point in the conversation he says, in a calm tone, I know you're not going to like this, but I'ma say it anyway. When one parent gives you gifts and takes you on trips and buys you things, of course you're going to side with them, even if they're wrong, because you don't want to lose that. This made me so angry. I have a genuine friendship with my mum, whereas even though my dad was a fantastic father, stay-at-home dad, he gave us everything we ever wanted and needed. I don't necessarily enjoy being around him. I hang out with him sometimes out of obligation, but it's very forced, and I know he can tell, and he's told me this hurts him in the past. I basically went off saying F you, and how dare you, and that he had no right to question my character, and the reason I like mum more is because he's no fun. Unmedicated, he's rude and rigid, and it has absolutely nothing to do with money. I'm screaming, but up until this point our conversation was calm and we were almost whispering so my mum wouldn't hear. My dad keeps trying to shush me, but I don't let up. I go to my mum and tell her what he just said, and he keeps looking at me saying, "Why are you doing this to me? I can't believe you're doing this to me. We were just having a calm conversation." I say I'm leaving and my mum gets in the car with me. Later my dad says that after my blow up, my mum no longer wanted to go to couples therapy. Am I the a-hole for blowing up and making it harder for my dad to win my mum back? Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she'll always be Indian no matter how much she tries to whitewash herself? I'm 17 male, my sister is 15 female. Our parents are immigrants from India before having us, so we've grown up in the US our whole lives. Regardless, I'd say we've stayed decently attached to the culture. We visit India every other summer, we speak our language, so on. But recently, I've been noticing that my sister has been attempting to distance herself from being Indian because in her words, it's uncool and Indians are negatively stereotyped. She's convinced that people don't think she's Indian because we have lightish skin, when she obviously looks Indian and so do I. When asked about her ethnicity, she always says something along the lines of, "I'm Indian but most people think I'm Latina, mixed or Greek or Italian." Nobody thinks that. Has started referring to herself by a white-sounding diminutive of her name, talks only about wanting to date white guys because Indian guys are unattractive, and obsessively trying to lighten her skin even further. I don't think this is a good mindset. It would be one thing if she was never that attached to the Indian part of her identity, and so doesn't identify as so. It's another that she has and is deliberately pushing it away because she feels it's uncool. That sort of mindset that being Indian is bad only leads to self-hatred, because no matter how much she changes herself externally, she'll know deep down that she's Indian and hate herself for it. And not only is it wrong, it's obvious what she's trying to do, and I know many people find it cringe. So she's hurting herself both mentally and socially. So today, I took her aside and told her that no matter how much she tries to whitewash herself, she'll still be Indian, and everybody but her sees her that way. She called me the a-hole for it, but I'm just trying to look out for her. I hope she comes around eventually. Opie then elaborates and answers some questions in the comments. Could this be coming partially from extended family? Opie replies, possibly. A lot of the family tends to praise her and I for our fair skin, so maybe she feels she needs to keep her skin as pale as possible to be attractive. I know she hasn't been catcalled when we've been to India, since we've always been together when we went to India, but unwanted comments from relatives have definitely happened. Do your parents know? I've been talking to them about it, and they are concerned about that, yes, and taking action to stop my sister from using it, which I'm glad for. My parents don't believe in therapists, but books is a possibility. She's just accepting her present rather than her past. Opie replies, I disagree that she's embracing her present rather than her past. Everything she does is reactionary to her past, being Indian, whitening her skin, talking about how non-Indian she is, and so on, rather than accepting it as a part of her and moving on. Right. Moving past how you don't understand what a stereotype is, my original point stands. Hating herself for looking Indian and constantly reasserting how non-Indian you look isn't living her life as an American. It's hating the unchangeable fact she's Indian. It's only your opinion she's hurting herself. It's not an opinion that she's using skin lightening creams which harm her skin and can cause cancer. It's not an opinion she hates herself for being Indian and is doing everything to get away from it. Where they live. Here's the thing, we live in NorCal with lots of Indians in the area. Our high school is more Indian than it is white, so it's not that she's changing herself to fit in. As for my motives, it's more that I see this as hurting herself mentally long term than anything. There is lots of advice in the comments on how to approach this, including showing her third-party information. Opie responds, yeah, that's a good idea. She might not listen to me, but third-party unbiased sources that aren't coming from me, she might be more willing to listen to. Thank you. Yeah, I don't expect her to fully embrace the culture and be 100% Indian. I'm not either. I just think that hating her culture like she does right now is only going to hurt her in the end. 2 more thoughts from OP. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying somebody living in the US for their whole life should be 100% Indian. I just think it's silly to deny the fact that growing up in a household with a non-American culture, having a foot in both worlds, impacts you. Somebody can deny their background, but it doesn't change the fact that it has helped shape the person they are today. Plus, in the case of Mindy Kaling, almost every Indian American teenager in the country has managed to traverse being the child of two cultures and learn to appreciate and be the best of both. So why can't a 30-something-year-old woman with an Ivy League degree do the same? In response to a comment, Opie says, "This is the most white liberal statement I've heard all day. Your race, culture and upbringing inherently has an impact on your psyche. So no, you can't simply decide you're not Indian, because being Indian as opposed to another race has already impacted you. The same goes for every other race." Am I interested to see the opinions in the comments on this one? I have a feeling there's going to be some varying opinions here. Let's have a look. "You're the a-hole. Good intentions saying she should be comfortable with her race. Bad execution. Instead of shaming her, maybe try helping her process her negative feelings." Well, she's 15, a teenager. Right now she wants to fit in and not stand out. As standing out is always making you a target for harassment. Give it time. She'll grow older and find her personality and who she is. However, your words didn't embrace her. To me it reads as if you're hurt by her not wanting to be Indian, which is understandable. It's part of your heritage and culture, and you find identity in it. Maybe try to understand her. Allow her to find herself. Your parents will push her hard enough when they see fit. Your sister will need someone to fall back onto. Not the a-hole, and I see a lot of people here having some very, very closeted racist and xenophobic opinions, like saying someone from India is now a typical average American girl. Not the a-hole, not the a-hole, not the a-hole. I'm an Indian girl who was born in the US, and if my sibling did this, I'd have the exact response that you did. Maybe even saltier, because our rich culture is nothing to be ashamed about. Light skin, dark skin or whatever, the number of Indian kids who genuinely love their nation is dwindling. I know so many Indian kids in the US who have no idea how to speak our language, and are ashamed to be even remotely associated with our country. Frickin' sad is what it is. And props to you, my guy, for guiding your sibling down the right path. It is totally not her fault, and there are so many why factors to consider. But let's just hope it makes sense to them soon enough, and they grow out of this mindset. Yeah, I think it's good to get a perspective from, like, another Indian American girl in the US, like that comment. I was leaning towards not the a-hole anyway, but after reading that, I genuinely think so. Like, his heart's definitely in the right place, and he's certainly looking out for her. And yeah, maybe the execution wasn't the best, but still, that's how brothers talk to sisters sometimes. That's just how it is. Let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. It's a bit of a tricky one. Anyway, let's jump to the update. First off, thank you to everybody who offered valuable advice, such as 1. To talk to her to get to the root of why she's rejecting and trying to outrun her heritage. 2. To get her to connect with her culture in fun, relatively simple ways she enjoys to open the door to more in the future. 3. Get her to read and watch media that reflects people going through a similar struggle. 4. Get my parents involved in stopping her from harming herself. One memorable commenter even sent me links to Korean and Indian mixed weddings that showed an appreciation for Indian culture, since she's a K-pop fan. I've tried to enact them. I've gotten my parents involved, and they've made it impossible for her to get skin lightening creams, which is a good first step. I've tried building a bridge between her and her culture through small things, sweets, traditional clothes, songs, with minimal success, but I'll keep trying since it hasn't been long at all. Similar results for introducing her to media too. The big thing, of course, was listening to her on why she felt the need to distance herself so much. Simply put, she felt India was portrayed by Western media and seen by people in the West as something barbaric. In the eyes of many, millions of years of history and culture are reduced down to a view of the nation and all its people as backwards, oppressive, sexist, discriminatory. In her words, it goes further than that. Because of the reductive views people have on India and its people, in which both those things are synonymous with uncivilized and sexist, appreciating her culture was always seen as her being brainwashed for loving a culture that just wanted to oppress her. I've come across these same reductive broad-stroke stereotypes in my own previous post. For example, they may already have a list of potential husbands to marry her off to. You should be proud and get her a new tube of Fair and Lovely. By the way, she's getting old now. Time to find her a husband from a good family, I think. Maybe she hates her Indian roots because girls are supposed to be beautiful, obedient, good at school, clean at home, serve parents and bro, and marry the guy her parents choose for her. all the while being proud of her culture, of course. If I gave you a sandwich and said I put feces in it, would you still eat that sandwich? The comparison being, in this case, Indian culture is the sandwich with feces in it. These are just a few examples from my post, so I can see how she could run into these views as well that would paint a reductive, stereotypical view of her heritage as well. She's taken these sorts of disgusting views she's come across, that India, and hence her heritage, is something negative or dirty, and that appreciating it means she's embracing something that's inherently against her existence and has totally internalized them. This is to such an extent that she sees her Indian heritage as something she needs to escape or remove, but she cannot, no matter how many times she talks about looking Italian or how many tubs of skin lightening cream she uses. Growing up in an Indian household in the US, straddling those two very different worlds and cultures, gave her a unique upbringing, shared by nobody, not kids who grew up in India, nor those with roots in the US, not even other immigrant families. That unique upbringing shaped who she is, and her heritage as an Indian American, and the impact it had on her psyche, is imprinted within her. She cannot change that. She's acutely aware of that, and it scares her, because she's been taught to see it as something disgusting. With time, I want to teach her what I've learned myself, that it isn't a choice she has to make, to embrace one culture or another, to be an American or an Indian. You can embrace the parts of both that you like, and leave the other parts behind. It's not black or white. Being Indian is a part of her that she cannot ever outrun, just like being an American is, but that doesn't have to mean being 100% one or the other. And I hope people who portray India and Indians with such disgusting stereotypes realize how perpetuating them instead of recognizing its beauty plays a huge part in causing people like my sister to hate their culture. So rather than helping or supporting her liberation, are, hypocritically, part of the reason why young people of Indian descent develop self-hatred. I hope every kid grappling with their identity because of these stereotypes can grow to appreciate the beauty of their culture. I hope that with time, empathy and support, I can lead my sister to seeing that too. Alrighty, so there you go guys, that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think in the comments. I think the sister will learn in time to appreciate her culture. Like, you have to remember, this is a 15-year-old girl we're talking about. I think it's pretty normal to go through like an identity crisis at that sort of age. It's just a shame that her kind of self-hatred for her heritage and culture is stemming from, soft racism, I guess you could call it. Stereotypes and, projections that the media portrays. I don't think anyone was the a-hole in this situation. I think this comment sums it up pretty beautifully. By the first phrases, I already knew this was deep-rooted racism, and boy, I hate to be right. As a half-Asian, I get both sides, but I understand the youngest better. It's exhausting. My eye shape is terrible for any makeup. Weirdos call me their waifu, or a cute lolicon, within minutes of meeting me, everyone asking me if I ate insects or dogs, and let's not even get started on my hillbilly-ish side. It's an uphill battle, to love both sides of your heritage and also shut down any arse-hats and racists. But I hope sister can understand that despite what she seems to believe now, it's a good thing to love her heritage, because it's not composed of sexism and ugly things, but of her family, traditions, and what she chooses to keep. Alrighty, let's jump to our next story. So our next story was posted by user SunflowerMama97, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for not wanting to force my children to go to church every Sunday?" Kids are 2 years and 8 months old. I, 27 female, and my husband, 30 male, have 2 kids. My husband and I both grew up Catholic, but had very different experiences within the church growing up, even though we grew up attending the same church with the same community. His family were the example of a good Catholic family, parents still married happily, a good amount of kids there every Sunday. For our small farm community, they were what others should want to be. Surface only behind the scenes, they are nothing like what they portrayed at church. I was born out of wedlock by a teen mum and grew up in a broken home. Was adopted by parents later divorced. Due to that, I was often the butt of the gossip around the church and was often told to my face that I was going to hell just for being born. But my mum still forced me to go every week, Wednesday and Sunday, even though at a young age, that led me to coming home crying. She forced me to volunteer and participate in numerous activities to try and prove my worth. I have zero issues with my faith. I still believe in the Catholic religion. My issue is with the church itself. I pray regularly, occasionally listen to Mass, but I don't feel like I need to show my face in the building to be whole and complete in my faith. Recently, my husband's best friend, 29 male, got very into religion again after years of nothing. My husband was very proud of him for finding that piece that he, the best friend, said was missing. This had also caused my husband to get more involved again, which I don't mind, but now my husband wants us to become that picture-perfect Catholic family by attending every week in our Sunday best, no ifs and or buts. I talked to him and he said he understands my feelings to a point, but he only knew love and praise from the church, so to his own admission, only somewhat understands, and says we can't shelter our children from God just because I felt abandoned by the community growing up. We still live in the same area where we grew up. I'm not trying to keep my kids from God. I plan to teach them, pray with them, etc. But he doesn't think it's enough. Am I the a-hole? Edit to add. Hubby and I spoke on lunch today and we agreed we need to sit down and have a long talk again, similar to the one we had when we first got together. I plan to show him the comments on the post, which I very much appreciate all of your insight. Opie elaborates on this discussion about religion with her husband prior to being married. When we first started dating years ago, we did have the religion talk. Back then he and I were on the same page, neither very involved. I still practiced lightly but not in a church setting. He had essentially not done anything relating to it for about a decade, so it was decided any kids we would have would be told about it, but able to make their own choices as they grew. Alright, let's have a look at some of these comments. Not the a-hole. You were exposed to the hypocrisy of the church. It is real. You have a right to not want your children participating in that. Unless you agreed to be active in the Catholic Church when you married, and agreed to raise your children under that influence, you have no obligation here. There were no false pretenses. A non-denominational community would be a good compromise. You guys need to get on the same page because such a strong disagreement can hurt your marriage. You said it yourself. They're fake. They put on an appearance of being a perfect family, then they go and abuse the waitstaff at Cracker Barrel and don't tip. I'm sure the straight male never had issues with the Catholic Church. Your experiences as a woman and a child of a not-so-perfect kid are clearly different. God forbid your child turns out queer in any way. It'll take decades of therapy for them to love themselves. Can you tell I'm not a fan of the Catholic Church? I would never in a million years let my child anywhere near the Catholic Church. If it's not a risk of assault, it'll be the irreversible mental damage. It's a cult, plain and simple. You can't be religious and still avoid the cult church. Not the a-hole. Yeah, hard to argue with some of those comments there. Let's jump to the update now. First, I want to thank everyone for the input. My husband and I spoke last night, and I showed him the post and all the comments. He appreciates the insight and people sharing their experiences, since it really helped him see his was the uncommon one. He admits he dove headfirst at 1,000% into this whole thing, which he has a habit of doing, and one of the adorable quirks I've come to love over the years. Never half-assed try something, always very overly passionate for maybe a week or so before he calms down. He feels guilty for it coming off as him wanting to dismiss my experience and feelings for the fake, perfect family image, which he swears is not his intent, and I do believe him. His reason for wanting us to go as a whole family was partly because he misses the sense of community he felt growing up from the church, and ideally was in the mindset that us going as a family will give our kids that same feeling and experience as they grow. He thought many of my negative experiences came from me going to church with my broken family, but he listened and asked me to explain in detail, if I was comfortable, exactly the type of stuff I went through. After I did, he realizes that our children will most likely end up subject to it as well. Our older child was born before we married, regardless of the church not acknowledging our marriage, and our younger one I was pregnant with at the beginning. He understands now that most of the ridicule I got and hate I experienced was mainly from just existing and nothing I personally had any control over. He doesn't want our children going through that or risking myself reliving it. He still wants to get back into it because he truly feels like he's missing something in his life and thinks this may be it since it was a huge part of his life for a long time, which I fully support. But he plans to start by just watching Mass online for a bit. He even spoke to his best friend about all of this and his friend reiterated that believing and following the faith does not mean you need to physically go to the building. He also quoted Big Bang Theory, as someone in the comments on the original post did. As for the children, as they get older, we plan to explain our beliefs to them, as well as others out there. But as they grow, if they decide it's not for them either at all, or find one they believe fits them better than mine and my husband's, we will support them, because being a parent means loving your children as they are, not as you try and make them be. They will be taught to be kind and show love, but not because the church says to, because it's what good people do, religious or not. There you go, guys, that's the end of that one. A great mentality for Opie to end on. And great to see that the husband listened and realised that what he was doing wasn't fair, and then they talked about and got to the root of the issues and came up with solutions. Pretty rare these days to see that happen. Also, for Catholic people, they have quite an open-minded outlook on things, which I really appreciate. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments. Either way, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.